Treasures pulled from the ocean, ancient trees, and delicacies harvested from remote corners of Earth. These are some of the most expensive natural resources on the planet. But retrieving the final substance on this list will cost billions and test the limits of human ingenuity. Here are 14 of the priciest substances Business Insider has ever covered, from least to most expensive. This man is risking his life to hunt for tree fossils that are 20 million years old, from a time long before the first humans appeared. Pieces of petrified wood could unlock mysteries from our past.
Tapi saya juga kurang tahu itu. Kurang tahu. Kurang paham itulah.
But every year, thousands of fossils are turned into furniture, plates, and even ashtrays. Items can sell abroad for up to 4 times what Indonesian miners make in an entire year. So, what kinds of secrets can we learn from these ancient treasures? And why is it so dangerous to dig them up? It takes a perfect combination of rare events for wood to transform this way. First, you need a lack of oxygen to stop decomposition. That can happen when a tree falls into a river or is buried under wet soil. The water swells up the wood, opening its cavities. Then, you need a volcanic eruption so silica from the ash can seep in and fill the spaces. It will start forming crystals, copying the exact texture of the tree, molecule by molecule. Over time, the entire trunk crystallizes into different kinds of solid quartz. It's one of the hardest materials on Earth. Miners can feel it underground with an iron rod.
Gede nih, lebar sini. Keras, emang keras. Jadi kalau kita ditusuk itu pakai besi, itu suara itu nyaring bener.
Eli Suhaili dug these mines himself with the help of his coworkers. He's 68 years old, but still goes in barefoot, bringing only a hammer and a crowbar. This mine is about 10 feet deep. It isn't reinforced or secured in any way, and there are no ventilation shafts. Eli finds a few fossils within minutes of digging. He scrapes at the walls to see if there's any wood hidden there.
Kalau longsor itu otomatis kan kita nggak bisa keluar. Kalau lagi dalam.
In 2016, 12 men died when a mine collapsed nearby. Eli has never lost a friend, but he has been injured before.
Yang kecil aja juga kalau dari atas kita ditusuk-tusuk begitu, kalau kita lagi nggak ini, kan kita niban karena itu kaki bisa bengkak lah.
Digging here technically requires a permit, but officials will only issue them if miners have the right kind of equipment. Eli says most can't afford it, so they risk working illegally.
ada juga kalau kita enggak ini mah. Dan juga kita kalau punya orang aja juga kalau enggak ini mah sama orangnya gitu. Ada khawatir kalau enggak ini mah enggak beres obrolan gitulah.
Today, this is the biggest log they found. It's about 3 times heavier than a piece of wood of the same size.
Ya, siap.
Udah bisa ditarik belum, Pak? Tuh, Pak,
Ya capek mah capek Bu. Orang udah tua begini mana nggak capek sih, udah napasnya udah lemes.
They've even dug up pieces weighing up to 4 tons. That's about the weight of a medium-sized truck. They could get $480 for a log that big. But they divide the money, and they have to pay the landowner too. In the end, they're each left with about $60 for a month's work. That's about half the minimum wage in this part of Indonesia. Ultimately, the wood is marked up and sells for a lot more than what miners initially get for it. But Ellie says mining is more stable than other jobs because there's so much petrified wood here.
Ya mau juga, mau sih. Cuma saya itu belum ada yang bisa menanggung jawab saya, Bu.
Wood polishers then transfer these slabs to a workshop. "37-year-old Sukheli has been polishing pieces for almost a decade, turning them into plates, stools, and tables.
Kalau kayu mah nggak keras, kalau ini mah keras. Jadi kalau ini mah fosil mah kan ada motifnya gitu.
Like most gems, petrified wood can only be cut with a diamond-tipped blade.
Kita yang hati-hati gitu kan. Kalau resikonya banyak ini mah. Ada yang ke tangan kepotong gulinda, ada yang apa mata kita ke petel gulinda, banyak lah. Juga pernah itu apa kaki saya kena pisau gulinda sampai ini ada lukanya nih.
The fossils in this part of Indonesia come from a kind of tree called sempur. They were alive 20 million years ago, when the earth was warmer. As the wood hardened into rock, it turned beige, white, or this black color.
Yang karakternya bagus, gampang diolah, pesanan yang pesen seles gitu, yang mau pesan ukuran berapa gitu, harganya lebih mahal lagi.
It can take up to 3 weeks to make the bigger items, like this table. He can finish smaller ones, like plates, in 2 days. He works with Kirono, a middleman who places custom orders on behalf of international clients, who pay twice as much as local shops. But there's no fixed price. Each piece is valued depending on the color and patterns. They told us they sold this table for about $3,800.
Barang seni dan memang langka, itu kita dianggap ratusan sampai Puluhan sampai ratusan lah, Mbak.
But to him, the work is also about building a reputation for his country.
Keawetannya, karena ini produk kita, produk Indonesia, dan di Indonesia itu memang sangat kaya dengan batu fosilnya.
Hati-hati Mas ya.
Halfway across the world in Arizona, this national park holds more petrified wood than anywhere else on Earth. Here, it's much older than in Indonesia, about 200 million years old, from the time dinosaurs still roamed the Earth. Paleontologist William Parker took us on a walk through this forest frozen in time.
These trees give us clues of what lived and grew during various times in Earth's history when, say, CO2 levels are at a high level and there was no polar ice.
By examining the color and thickness of the tree rings, scientists can sometimes figure out what the climate was when the tree grew. They can then use that data to figure out how different weather conditions could affect life as we know it.
Even today, the Earth is changing. It's important for us to understand what makes it in those type of environments.
Taking even a chip of petrified wood from here is illegal. But officials say tourists steal some anyway.
Come on, just go ahead.
I'm clear of Highway 180.
Copy, thank you. 1555.
Though sometimes they send it back.
As much as, we'd like to tell people they'll be cursed if they illegally collect wood, they're really not cursed, except for maybe a guilty conscience. Because what happens is people start sending us back a whole bunch of stuff.
The US government spends about $4 million annually to maintain and preserve the park. But without federal protection, this natural and scientific wonder could disappear.
Trees are a major part of our ecosystem, and we need to understand everything we can about them. And hopefully we can better manage those ecosystems or make changes that'll give them the best chance for success.
In 1941, researchers tried to figure out how much the petrified wood here is worth. They estimated that all the visible pieces in this park would amount to about $200 million when adjusted for inflation. And that doesn't even account for all the trees that are still buried. But the park does not place importance on the monetary value of this wood.
So if we were to collect every single piece of petrified wood on Earth and put it in stores or collections or in people's houses, we lose the scientific context.
All across the US, people can mine on property they own and sell their pieces for thousands of dollars. This furniture store in New York City has petrified wood items ranging anywhere from $500 to $5,000 each. Philip Tuan travels to Indonesia himself to pick out these finds, but he doesn't buy from the people we followed for this story.
Petrified woods are very unique. You can't expect what you're going to get, right? Before the petrified get milled and cut open, sometimes you don't see what's inside there.
Stumps sell for anywhere between $1,400 and $1,800 each. The bigger items, like tables, go for more, ranging in price from about $1,000 to $5,000, depending on the size.
And it's a piece of the heritage of the whole planet. It's just, it's really heavy, solid. It's not going to break down or do anything. It's just always going to be beautiful forever. So that's pretty cool too.
Back in Indonesia, miners like Ellie don't have the privilege of buying these pieces.
Habisnya susah bikinnya. Bikinnya juga mahal. Jadi nggak kebelilah. Dan juga dipakainya kita mana berat untuk kita malah nggak sesuai aja pakai piring begitu.
Eli didn't get past elementary school because he had to start working. He used to be a motorbike taxi driver, but it wasn't enough to sustain his family. So he became a miner, like most other men in this area.
Iya, ngingetin, hati-hati ya Pak, kalau berangkat kerja itu ibu takut gitu, khawatir ya, namanya di bawah, takut tutup tanah apa.
They own only a petrified wood tray, a small memento from all of Eli's years of mining.
Kalau ibu sendiri mah Bapak pengen berhenti, kalau ada biayanya makan. Kalau berhenti makan dari mana ibu?
Frankincense and myrrh are perhaps best known for their biblical connotations. But this tree sap has been prized across the world for over 6,000 years. These fragrant incense pieces come from the Burseraceae family of trees and are found across the Horn of Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. But despite recent attempts to protect these trees, they could soon be headed for extinction. So what makes frankincense and myrrh so expensive? There are roughly 550 species of Burseraceae, a collection of trees often referred to as the incense tree family, recognisable for their flaking aromatic bark and fragrant sap. But true frankincense comes from only a small fraction of those species.
ኣብዚ ዓዲ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ናብ ካብ 6 ዓሌታት ዕጣን ኣለዎ ተባሂሉ ይሕሰብ ካብዞም 6 ዓሌታት ሓደ ኣብ ትግራይ ዝርከብ ቦስዋልያ ፓፕሊፌራ ዝበሃል ሳይነሳዊ መፀውዒ ዘለዎ ኣብ ዕዳጋ ዓለም ተቐባልነት ዘለዎ ዓሌት ዕጣን እዩ።
Frankincense is a milky white resin derived from boswellia trees, which are remarkable for their ability to grow in unforgiving conditions. In fact, these trees have been known to grow out of solid rock. Myrrh, on the other hand, is a reddish resin extracted from commiphora trees. The process of extracting sap from boswellia and commiphora trees is virtually identical. Incisions or taps are made in the bark of the tree, which create injury. The trees produce a gummy resin, like a scab, as a protection against the injury. The resin then hardens into teardrop pieces. More incisions are made at important intervals to continue the production of resin exudates.
መጀመሪያ መቐርን ነዚ ንዕልሞ ታዕሊም ትበሃል እዚኣ ካብኡ ካልኣይ ደሞ እዚኣ ቆሲለላ ቁሩብ መዓልቲ ዝወሰለ ልዕሊ ድሕሪ 15 መዓልቲ እዚኣ ተልቃ ቅንፍሪት ትበሃል ካብኡ ሜስካ ድሕሪ 15 መዓልቲ ሜስ ብተመሳሳሊ ተልቃ ሳልስየን ተባሂላ ትፅዋዕ ተወሰነ ግን ዕጣን ግን ኣለዎ ይወፃ የተወሰነ ኣሪና ነጠረቐምና ንእኮ ካብኡ ብድሕሪ ሜስ ድሕሪ 15 መዓልቲ ድማ ራብዓየን ተባሂሉ ይፅዋዕ ተወሰነ ይእረዮ ካብኡ እንደገና ተደጋጋሚ ከም ብ15 ይዝፈላለ
The resin granules collected from the trees must be separated into different grades. First grade A frankincense is clear, white and without impurities. Smaller pieces of the same high quality granules are separated within a sieve and classified as first grade B frankincense. The grades gradually deteriorate based on the size and the amount of impurities, such as bark infused into the resin. Low quality frankincense is mainly sold for local market consumption, whereas grades 1, 2, 3 and 4 are exported.
ጽቡቕ ሙዚቅ ቀዳማይ ይባሃል እዚ ብድርጅኡን ቀዳማይ እዩ ብዋግኡን ዝሐሸ ዋጋ እዩ ዘለዎ ማለት እዩ ብተቐሚጥና ዘለና ተርቢልና ዘለናስ በቃ ዋግኡን ቀዳማይ እዩ እዚ ዝለዓለ ዋጋ ኣለዎ ቀዳማይ ይባሃል ማለት እዩ ካብ 15000 ንገዝኦ እዚ 15000 ቅርሺ 800 ብዘይባቱ ንገዝኦ ዝዓዲ ማለት እዩ
That means that at wholesale, this sack of first grade A Ethiopian frankincense is worth about $430. Frankincense and myrrh have been burnt as incense for thousands of years, and both are deeply ingrained in religious ceremonial burnings. In fact, it's estimated that the Roman Catholic Church alone still uses an estimated 50 metric tons of frankincense a year. Frankincense and myrrh were some of the most highly prized commodities in ancient civilizations, and became the driving force behind the creation of the incense trade routes, a vast network of major land and sea passageways dating back to 300 BC that linked the Mediterranean to luxury goods from the south. At the height of their use, these routes allowed the transport of approximately 3,000 tons of incense every year, hauled by camels. Today, alongside its medicinal and cosmetic uses, frankincense has found a surge in popularity as an essential oil, which in its purest form can be sold for as much as $6,000 per litre. Frankincense essential oil alone generated more than $190 million in 2018, and that's expected to exceed $406 million by 2028. But with so much money to be made from damaging a tree, the tapping process, which should happen only 2 or 3 times a year, is under threat not only from environmental dangers such as wildfires, but also from local untrained tappers. It can sometimes take decades for these trees to start producing resin, so the sustainability of the species relies on injuring the tree without killing it.
Unfortunately, the harvesting process of frankincense is very damaging to the tree. So every time people go there and make wounds and then collect the sap, that doesn't give enough time to rest for the tree and heal itself. So one of our findings is this tree is really under a threat.
The International Union for Conservation of Nature categorised the Boswellia sacra species as near threatened over 20 years ago, and the lack of overharvesting laws in some countries means that protecting Boswellia trees in such remote areas is virtually impossible. Experts who surveyed aging Boswellia papyrifera trees in North Africa suggested that most hadn't produced a young tree in half a century.
بزفقد تلحص الحر كين كاجن أو حمشة 10 عامات كود أو ذخل تخلي تطفخ عازخل تخلي أفليس كون كنت قوة زي تخل تخيل كون قريت كون كنت قوة زي تخل بتفطروا بعنا على زخي تخل سلذخانة حد عوي تلك غازلي تناي محضر وأنت ما ناي مانجمنت تناي وأنت تطعم كارلجن نبزح زمانات كتأكل الزمانات لا تطعم على المزعت أني سك هذا كله زوله لكن كعت أني رولت أخاوي تتكعل هذا ناي ورع أخاوي توصيلنا إذا ناي تنبين كا توصيلنا.
In Carrara, Italy, extracting Calcutta marble doesn't always go as planned.
Però si pensava che non andasse, invece è andato e si è aperto.
It'll take more work to fix, but luckily it's still usable. And in 4 days, it'll be processed into one of the most expensive marble slabs in the world. Just one slab can cost over $10,000. So how is Calcutta mined from mountains? And what makes it so expensive? Marble has been used for centuries by artists and designers. But Calcutta marble isn't just any kind of marble. A square foot of some Calcutta can cost over $400, more than 4 times the price of high-end Carrara marble, which is mined in the same mountains. Its warm, ivory-white background and thick gold or gray veins sets Calcutta apart from other marbles. But the key to Calcutta's price is its rarity. It's found only in the Apuan Mountains of Carrara, Italy. Marble has been mined here for over 2,000 years. Extracting Calcutta marble from the mountains requires decades of experience. Enrico has been a miner for 40 years. He learned from his father, who worked at the same quarry.
Ci vuole l'esperienza, ci vuole la visione della cava, i difetti, i fronti di cava, stare a vedere.
It's important that miners have a trained eye and are precise. They need to work around the mountain's defects to avoid the risk of the marble breaking. These flaws affect where the miners can extract, how much they can extract, and eventually, how much they can sell.
Per il taglio del blocco, per tirar fuori il blocco si cerca dei segni nel monte, nella bancata, nel fronte, o un difetto, o un tipo di macchia, o saprei un finimento, sono tutte cose che fanno parte della cava. Ecco.
Despite Enrico's care and attention, he doesn't always get the result he wants.
Come abbiamo visto prima, che magari quando si ribalta si stacca un difetto che magari si prevedeva, però ci può essere anche di dietro che non lo vedevi. Quindi quando si ribalta la bancata, la criticità può essere quello lì.
But before they can detach the block, they have to drill and saw. In the first stage of extraction, miners use drills to make strategic holes in the mountain. They then run diamond braid cords through these holes, cutting the marble into a block. The machinery is kept wet to protect the marble as chainsaws help detach the block from the mountain. An average block is 12 cubic meters and can weigh 36 metric tons. It's then carefully loaded into a truck, which brings it to a processing facility.
Here, the Calcutta marble blocks are sliced into slabs. At this stage, processors can't afford to make a mistake and risk ruining the rare marble delivered to them. They mount over 100 very thin blades onto a wet saw, and the cutting begins. The saw cuts slabs as thin as 2 centimeters. Then they're prepared for shaping and polishing. The slabs are first sanded and pre-smoothed. Then they're prepared for resination, or the application of resin to fill any cracks or holes in the slab. It's also used to attach broken pieces, like the ones that cracked at the quarry.
Questa è in pratica il blocco quando è arrivato giù che ha il materiale, che noi resinandolo lo rendiamo utilizzabile.
And with marble as rare as Calcutta, one mistake can have a big impact on the quality and final price of the slab.
La fase più importante in pratica è tutta una fase importante. Se la prima fase non è stata eseguita correttamente, successivamente le varie fasi non vengono eseguite correttamente. Quindi dobbiamo iniziare da subito, dalla prima fase, a farla correttamente. Quindi la lastra deve essere omogenea, levigata su tutta la sua superficie, nella larghezza della lastra, anche sui vari 4 angoli.
After Sergio checks that the resin was applied evenly, he moves it under UV light to dry. These steps ensure that the slab has no flaws.
Dopo il materiale viene posato per pavimenti, rivestimenti che diventerebbero neri, quindi prenderebbero lo sporco e perderebbe poi il valore la lastra.
Then the Calcutta slab reaches its final stage. It's honed and polished until it almost sparkles, becoming, as Sergio says, shiny to the eye. It's now ready to be sent to the buyer. Calcutta is extracted and processed on a per-order basis. Producers consult the customer every step of the way. This way, the Calcutta is perfectly customized to the client's needs, because once it's fully processed, there's no going back. Even with these risks and high costs, customers still want Calcutta.
Our customers prefer Calcutta because it's a luxury, it's a high-end product, it's timeless, and it's classical. It fits very well with any kind of furniture.
White marbles like Calcutta are more desirable because they have fewer flaws than darker marbles, so they require less maintenance and repairs. Calcutta is in even higher demand than other white marbles like Carrara. The veins look crisper, less faded. There are generally fewer veins in Calcutta, making it easier to incorporate in exterior and interior design. And it has a softer contrast than other high-end marbles, like Statuario, which has a milky background, darker gray veining, and fewer changes in color.
This is a typical use of Calcutta. It is made in this case to make kitchen countertop, and you can see the typical Calcutta vein.
But certain Calcutta is even more expensive. Calcutta Gold, referring to the vein color, is especially hard to find. While standard Calcutta can cost over $10,000, a Calcutta Gold slab can reach more than $29,000. And while specific pricing is considered an industry secret, Memo says selling isn't an issue.
In the last 40 years, demand for Calcutta has actually increased. And even during times of crisis, people have had a big desire for this type of material.
But this growing demand isn't welcomed by everyone, especially Carrara locals. Sawing extraction techniques have led to slurry and waste being carried to nearby environments through runoff water. This has impacted local groundwater and the people who need it. And environmentalists warn the overexploitation of the mountains will only make things worse. But that hasn't shaken demand for Calcutta, or marble in general. The global marble market is estimated to grow to $68.5 billion by 2027. So Calcutta will likely remain one of the world's priciest natural resources.
This sea salt could cost you more than 30 times the price of table salt. Unlike the cheap salt that's mined across the world, this salt is all harvested by hand in one remote region in the northwest of Iceland. So just what makes it so expensive? This is Saltwerk. It's a sea salt factory in the West Fjords of Iceland. Housed in one of the most remote and coldest locations in the country, it produces 10 metric tons of salt each year. The salt takes at least a week to make, and almost all of the work is done by hand. But there's one other thing that's unique about the way that it's processed. Everything is powered entirely by geothermal energy.
We use the geothermal energy that we have available here in the Reykjanes Peninsula, which are one of the purest sea waters in the world. We are moving the water from the fjord into the big building here that we have outside. In each pool we have radiators. Through the radiators, the hot water from the spring circulates and heats up the seawater. And as the water from the seawater evaporates, the concentration of salt gets higher. The tanks are run on hot water. The pans are run on hot water, the drying room is on hot water, the heating for the factory, for the houses, everything is run on hot water. It is green as it gets.
The process of making sea salt is simple, but it takes a lot of work. Salt is made by heating seawater to evaporate the water and increase the salt level. Sea salt has been produced like this for thousands of years. Water pumped directly from the sea is naturally about 3.5% salt. But it needs to reach about 26% before the water is saturated and salt begins to form. The water is first preheated until it reaches a salinity level of about 20%.
The whole process of making salt here takes from sea to salt from 7 to 10 days, depending on the weather and the time of the year. We get better results in the wintertime because of the lower humidity, because the frost takes out the humidity. And it's harder in the summertime. As you can see, we have a really high humidity and rain, so it's really hard to evaporate because this Iceland is not a place where you usually make salt.
Once it's reached this point, it's moved to large pans and boiled. When the water hits 26% salinity, it becomes completely saturated, and salt crystals start to form on the surface. These crystals slowly sink to the bottom of the pans, where they're drawn and drained of any remaining liquid. The salt is spread evenly on drying trays and moved to a large oven to dry for over 12 hours, before being sifted and packaged for sale. Salt has been an important part of Icelandic cuisine for hundreds of years, and many treated it as a currency. Although sourcing salt isn't quite so hard these days, the tradition of salt making still remains.
During the 17th century, the Danish king had his salt making factory in this region, and he was also producing salt here, and it was an important part of the economy of the island as it was used for preserving food over the long winter months and also for export of fish and cod. In those times also it was considered as valuable as gold. There was a law introduced here in the 17th century stating that people, while working as salt makers, were prohibited of having a wife or children or a family because it was seen as a distraction from work. It just shows how important it was to them.
The final result is a very minimally processed, flaky sea salt from clear Icelandic waters. Unlike processed rock salt, the sea minerals remain in the crystals, but these are only a tiny percentage of the final product. Producing any product in such a remote location has its difficulties, which contributes to the price. But with Saltwerk featuring exclusively at some of the world's best restaurants, and their production process leaving a 0% carbon footprint, consumers will continue to pay top dollar for pure Icelandic sea salt.
Pulling these mossy green threads by hand is the only way to harvest kamte. And after hours of washing, shaping, and drying, they will be transformed into one of South Korea's rarest seaweeds. When Chu Hyun-song started her business, Padaso, kamte was mainly harvested and eaten raw by locals in the Sosan region. But turning this small industry into a thriving business presented a challenge.
그때는 감태가 뭔지도 모르니까 고객분들이 감태를 구매를 할 생각을 아예 못 하셨던 거거든요.
So she worked to get this earthy and sweet seaweed to people outside the region. Not just to anyone, but to the culinary world's biggest players. All while navigating unpredictable harvests and rising prices.
제가 처음에 감태 시작했을 때는 뭐 감태가 예를 들어서 원물 자체가 1kg에 이건 예로 1kg에 10만 원이다. 즉 하면은 지금은 거의 1kg에 한 30만 원 정도 되거든요.
So how did Chu Hyun take kamtae from local delicacy to worldwide sensation? And why is it so expensive?
10년 전만 해도 감태하면 뭐야 도대체 사람들이 감퇴? 막 이렇게까지 심지어 얘기해가지고 제가 되게 좀 속상했었는데 이제는 이제 젊은 친구들도 감태하면은 아 뭔가 고급 레스토랑에서 쓰이는 좀 비싼 거 이런 인지가 생기고.
But before reaching restaurant kitchens, kamtae's journey starts on the freezing cold western shoreline of South Korea's Garorim Bay. Unlike other types of edible seaweed like nori that can be farmed, kamtae can only grow in the wild on mudflats, coastal wetlands that form when ocean tides wash in sediment and mud.
그러니까 감태 같은 경우는 해조류인데도 불구하고 다른 해조류들은 이제 바닷물에 둥둥 떠서 있는데 지금 보시면 감태는 여기 이렇게 뿌리를 내리고 있는 게 잘 보이거든요. 그러니까 사실 해조류임에도 뭐 야채와 채소 같은 성격을 가지고 있는 굉장히 좀 독특한 해조류라고 보시면 됩니다.
Because of this, kamtae can only be harvested by hand. Any other way could destroy the root of the plant, impacting the supply for next year.
채취를 할 때 뿌리는 내버려두고 중간에 끊어서 좀 채취를 해야 나중에 걔네들이 또 자라고 하는 과정들이 있거든요.
Since kamtae can go bad if exposed to high temperatures for too long, harvesting happens from December to March, when the sea is the coldest. For these 4 months, Chu Hyun and her team must collect as much kamtae as possible to meet demand from buyers for the rest of the year. They can spend 6 hours a day pulling kamtae from the mudflats.
그러니까 추운 거랑 물에 잘 빠지는 거, 그 다음에 이렇게 쭈그려 앉다 보니까 정말 늘 이렇게 허리가 되게 아프더라고요. 작업하다 보니까. 손만 시려운 게 아니라 발도 시렸고, 그리고 지금은 안 그런데 정말 갯벌에 칼바람이 장난 아니거든요.
The intense harvesting process is only the first difference between kamtae and more common nori seaweed. Compared to nori's dark green color and slightly coarse feel, kamtae's bright green, fine strands have a more delicate texture. This laborious process is just one of the reasons kamtae costs so much more than other seaweeds, and relying on the rhythms of nature means supply can be unpredictable.
이게 자연산이다 보니까 이게 안 놔도 제가 할 수 있는 일은 없고 사실은 그렇거든요.
Recently, warming sea temperatures have disrupted the growth.
올해 같은 경우가 굉장히 어려웠는데 지금 좀 등섬 감태가 있잖아요. 그래서 올해는 수확량이 예전에 거의 3분의 1밖에 안 되는 것 같아요.
To make up the difference, Chu Hyun buys kamtae from local fishermen who collect it.
지금 저희가 뭐 감태 작업하시는 가구는 한 50가구 이상 같이 하고 있어요. 제가 나올 때 좀 매집을 많이 해두는 편입니다.
Kamtae also has a richer, more pungent flavor than nori.
감태가 굉장히 매력적인 게 되게 달달하면서도 좀 쌉스름한 향이 있거든요. 그래서 달달하면서 좀 쌉스름한 게 다른 해조류랑은 되게 좀 다른 특성이 있는 것 같아요.
But that flavor comes with a price tag. An 8-sheet pack of kamtae costs $16. 50 sheets of nori can be bought for the same price. But whether it's harvested by workers or locals, all the kamtae has to be washed back at the factory. It's the most crucial part of processing because any mud, debris, or critters left on the seaweed could affect how it tastes in the end.
그리고 얘는 이제 각각류의 새끼 같은 거예요. 사실 이게 자연산이다 보니까 이런 것들이 조금씩 있을 수가 있는데 이제 특히나 저희가 공급하고 있는 데가 뭐 파인다이닝이나 뭐 호텔이나 뭐 이런 뭐 백화점이나 이런 쪽이 되게 많은데 컴플레인이 걸리면 절대 안 되거든요.
Years ago, workers would have done this completely by hand, but this washing machine can clean 100 kilograms in less than 10 minutes. It's just one of the changes Chu Hyun made to the kamtae processing techniques she learned from her father.
그러니까 제가 이제 회사 생활을 접고 서산으로 내려와서 아버지한테 아빠 제가 감태를 만들어서 팔겠습니다라고 했을 때 아버지가 처음에 코웃음 치셨거든요.
Like many locals, Chu Hyun's father, Chol Soo-song, grew up eating kamte. But one day, he was struck with a new idea for processing it.
내가 이제 구워서 먹어보고 떠서 이제 보고 하니까 그때 저는 부가스도 있고 좋더라고. 그래서 그때부터 이제 감태를 시작을 한 거야. 이제 김같이 떠서.
Chu Hyun and her team of 15 still use his techniques to process kamte at Padasup.
그래서 아직도 저는 좀 어려워하고 지금도 아버지한테 틈틈이 배우고 있습니다.
Workers use a technique called harrowing to form the kamte into paper-thin sheets. They submerge a handful of the seaweed in fresh water and mold it on top of a bamboo mat. While it may look simple, this technique can take 3 years to master.
사실 저도 몇 번 연습을 했는데 잘 안 되긴 하더라고요. 쉽지 않습니다. 이 작업이. 또 너무 두껍거나 너무 얇지도 않게 적당한 양을 잘 피는 게 되게 어렵더라고요. 우선은 여기 이제 빈 공간이 없는 거가 되게 중요하고 또 너무 이렇게 뭉쳐 있지 않는 게 되게 중요하거든요.
Chu Hyun uses this press to remove excess water from the kamte.
물이 좀 잘 빠져야 이제 건조가 좋아지니까 또 건조를 오래 하게 되면은 상품의 이제 색감이나 이렇게 질이 조금 떨어질 수 있어서.
The sheets dry the rest of the way in these dryers. Padasup sells kamte sheets either raw or roasted at 230 degrees Celsius for 10 seconds.
구운 감태 같은 경우는 저희가 함초, 자염이랑 참기름, 옥배유 요 3가지를 부어 같이 믹스해가지고 양념을 합니다.
Padasup produces 3,500 sheets of kamte in a single day and exports roughly 500,000 each year. But carving out a market for kamte outside of Seosan was anything but easy.
저는 저희가 공장을 만들고 감태를 맛있게 만들면 사람들이 알아서 찾아서 사줄 거라고 생각을 했거든요. 근데 제가 창업을 하고 2014년도에는 저희가 매출이 진짜 빵원이었어요.
Chu Hyun knew the only way to create a market for the seaweed was to teach people about it.
그래서 제가 그때부터 했던 게 감태가 뭔지 이걸 좀 알려야 되겠다라는 생각을 해서 감태가 무엇인가, 또 감태는 어떻게 먹으면 좋은가, 감태가 왜 귀한 음식인가, 좀 이런 것들을 알리는 데 많은 초점을 뒀습니다.
She focused on promoting it to the high-end market, sending samples of kamte to Michelin-starred chefs and writing articles describing its unique taste and texture. Eventually, her years of tireless promotion paid off. Chu Hyun says she began getting inquiries from chefs around the world.
그러다 보니까 한국에 대한 관심도 높아진 데다가 제가 만나본 셰프님들은 식재료에 대한 열망이 굉장히 크시더라고요. 특히나 처음 보는 식재료, 다른 사람들이 안 쓰는 식재료에 대한 열망이 굉장히 크셔가지고 감태를 소개해드렸을 때 셰프님들의 반응이 정말 눈이 반짝반짝 하시면서 이런 것도 있었냐라고 굉장히 좋아하시더라고요.
One of them is Chris Cipollone. He's the chef owner of the restaurant Francie in Brooklyn, New York. It's one of several Michelin-starred restaurants that sources kamte through Padasup.
It's got this like robust aroma. It's like an oceanic white truffle, is what I always describe it to people.
Chris has been using kamte in his dishes for the last 10 years. It's a key ingredient in one of the restaurant's signature dishes, conchiglie.
Here we are in the kitchen. We're about to start making our actual pasta, the conchiglie itself, using the seaweed, and we have 4 simple ingredients. We have our semolina flour, we have the gamte itself, we have water, and we have salt. Very simple.
Chris mixes the seaweed into the pasta dough.
I felt like it seasoned the dough to a point where you actually tasted it through the pasta itself. It's got a lot of umami, a lot of pop.
The pasta is then cooked in a buttery wine sauce and topped with clams.
It's right on. Got tons of umami, bright, great mouthfeel, great texture.
While Chris could opt for cheaper types of seaweed, he says kamte's one-of-a-kind flavour is worth the price tag.
anything's worth it in the pursuit of deliciousness.
And Chris isn't the only one willing to pay. Bada Sup provides kamte for high-end restaurants in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, as well as Belgium, France, and Germany. But this new demand has caused raw kamte prices to rise. Chu Hyun says since 2020, more producers have popped up.
지금은 감태하시는 분들도 조금씩 늘어나고 또 옛날만큼 많이 나지도 않은 경우들이 있어서 원물가가 굉장히 왔다 갔다 하는데 이거는 아마 다른 해조류들도 마찬가지일 거예요. 그래서 제가 처음에 감태 시작했을 때는 뭐 감태가 예를 들어서 원물 자체가 1kg에 이건 예로 1kg에 10만 원이다. 즉 하면은 지금은 거의 1kg에 한 30만 원 정도 되거든요.
But there is a silver lining. Chu Hyun says this new market for kamte is helping local communities in Sosan.
감태가 이제 많은 분들이 찾아주시고 또 저희도 수매를 많이 해주심으로 인해서 그 어가에서 겨울에 소득을 올릴 수 있는 큰 소득원이 됐습니다. 그동안 10년 넘는 시간 그리고 아버지의 40년 넘는 시간이 그냥 헛되게 보낸 게 아니다라는 생각이 들더라고요.
내가 못한 거 제가 이제 열심히 하고 잘하고 있으니까 좀 마음이 뿌듯해요. 바람에는 이제 우리 송 대표가 노력한 만큼 이제 국내도 그렇지만 이제 해외도 세계적으로 이제 뻗쳐서 이 브랜드를 제대로 만들어서 끌고 나갔으면 하는 것이 바람이고.
This isn't just any old honey, it's Manuka honey. And in its purest form, it can cost up to $99 per 100 grams. That's more than 100 times the price of normal honey. So why is it so expensive? Manuka honey is known for being earthier, richer, and more viscous than many other honeys. It comes from the nectar of the flower Leptospermum sciparium, also known as Manuka, which is only native to New Zealand. And Manuka, in fact, is a Maori word.
The fact that it comes from New Zealand, that gives it a premium just to start with. And because the bee travels up to about 6 kilometres to collect this honey. And so this honey is representative of the environment, and that environment is of New Zealand, Aotearoa. The plant itself and the honey is very, very rare. Out of all the honeys in the world, it probably represents 1% of all the world honeys. It's difficult to harvest. It's only a 2 to 6 week harvesting period, and the flower is only open for 12 days. And in New Zealand we have wind and we have rain and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of luck involved in getting the bee, or a lot of effort from the beekeeper. And for some years there is no honey production for some beekeepers. And we have to go to the big extent also of using helicopters to collect this honey.
Although Manuka bushes can also be found in Australia, New Zealand accounts for almost all of the world's production, with exports worth $204 million and expected to quadruple to $800 million by 2028. New Zealand's honey is protected by a quality standard that safeguards Manuka's special properties.
This honey is an expensive honey, and anything that is expensive, people will try and copy. People will try and mimic, or people will try and cheat. So a lot of the cost here isn't actually in the protection of it, or the research, so we know it's unique, we know it's from New Zealand. We can identify it. We've put labs around the world to be able to do this identification. The New Zealand government has set up a standard to say what is Manuka honey.
So, how does the grading system work, and what exactly are you looking for in Manuka honey? We spoke to Dr. Adrian Charlton from Fairer Science, a lab in the north of England where Manuka honey is tested to identify its unique compounds.
As standard, we will test for 3 compounds. Dihydroxyacetone, which is known as DHA, methylglyoxal, known as MgO, and hydroxymethylfurfural, HMF. These are the basic tests that we would undertake to make sure that Manuka honey contains the antimicrobial characteristics that the consumer would expect. We can detect them, but we can also measure the concentration of them, and that's done using UV light to detect at a particular wavelength the individual compounds. Each compound has slightly different properties. But because of the issues in the past with potential fraud, There's a suite of other tests, including tests for compounds such as leptospirin, which is a marker that's unique to the nectar of Leptospirnum scoparium. We can trace then the honey back to its botanical origin, the plant that it came from.
When you pick up a jar of Manuka honey, the markers can be confusing. So how do you know that it's the real deal?
So in some cases they're labelling for the concentration of a compound, so MgO 300 would indicate 300 milligrams of methylglyoxal in that particular pot of honey per kilogram, to NPA, which is non-peroxide activity. Now that's related to the methylglyoxal concentration, but it's a more direct measure of the antimicrobial activity of the honey. Other marks, such as UMF, are quality mark, that if you can see a particular stamp on a product that it's been tested and assured to a certain standard, so that's different to actually labelling it with the concentration of a particular compound.
Another factor that's driving up the price is the use of Manuka honey in health and beauty products. Its antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties are said to soothe and nourish the skin. And it's also said to help with blemishes and acne. But is that really the case?
There's been a number of studies that have tried to determine the health benefits of Manuka honey, and there are some very positive results, and certainly in terms of antimicrobial activity we can show that Manuka honey has antimicrobial activity in the laboratory. Those clinical trials over a long period of time have not been undertaken as of yet, but there are lots of reports that indicate that Manuka honey has benefits, but as yet unproven.
So the jury's still out on Manuka's medicinal properties, but that hasn't stopped its popularity, and Manuka honey is serious business. The prices and demand for the honey are so high that the New Zealand police have received hundreds of reports of beehives or honey being stolen, and even reports of bees being poisoned. So if you do manage to get your hands on a jar, does it actually taste different from normal honey?
Oh my god, that is delicious. The flavour is really strong.
It's very thick compared to normal honey.
It's got a kind of chestnutty flavour. It's not as sweet as usual honey. It's really smooth.
And the taste is pretty similar to what I'm used to. The texture is really interesting. It's very, very thick, almost like creamy.
Is Manuka honey really worth 100 times more than other honey? That's for you to judge. But what's for certain is that no other honey in the world is so rare and unique that it needs to pass by a lab before being sold.
About 20,000 pounds of sea urchins are delivered to the Santa Barbara factory each week. But it's not until you crack open the spiky shells that you see what makes sea urchins so valuable: the gonads. Just one 200-gram tray of urchin gonads like this can cost $100, and some in Japan can sell for over 5 times that. Sea urchins are one of the few seafoods still hand-harvested by divers today, and in recent years, masses of them have taken over the seabeds of California. So why are there so many urchins? And how, despite this seemingly huge supply, are they still so expensive? Sea urchin, or uni, is a prized delicacy in several parts of the world. Today, the yellow-orange gonads are often served in sushi, and even right out of the shell. Hundreds of urchin species exist, but only a select few are coveted food, including the red sea urchin here in Santa Barbara. Known as California gold, these gonads are prized because they're large, buttery, and sweet from the kelp they eat. To find gonads like this, divers need to collect individual sea urchins by hand. Michael Robertson has been diving for urchins for 15 years. He starts his days early, sailing out before the sun rises. It takes him and his crew about 2.5 hours to reach a good diving spot.
See that little island up there? That's called B Rock. That's where we're going. So all this green right here on top of this red that's reef is vegetation. That's a good thing. That lets us know it's not sand and it's just not bare rock. If there's vegetation, maybe there's urchins.
Michael looks for abundant kelp forests to help him decide where to dive. More kelp typically means better quality urchins.
2010, on a good day, a diver could harvest maybe up to 2,000 pounds a day of good quality sea urchins. Now the divers are typically coming in with about 300 to 500 pounds a day, so a quarter of the amount.
But surprisingly, parts of California's seabeds are full of urchins.
If they wanted to, they could still bring in 2,000 pounds a day. There's a lot of sea urchins out there, but there's a lack of kelp. So even if you bring in 2,000 pounds, if they're not marketable, then we don't harvest them.
If you want to compare how it was to how it is, this was solid kelp from here all the way in, all the way down. And now you have just little pockets here and there.
That lack of kelp impacts the value of red sea urchins. It also strains the ocean's ecosystem and the species that rely on kelp forests for habitat. Along with warming waters and pollution in recent decades, a certain sea urchin is to blame. Sea urchins can survive for years without eating, even without gonads. And after the decline of sea stars, one of its predators, in 2013, the purple sea urchin population exploded, consuming more than 95% of California's kelp forests as it grew. Purple urchins are smaller and produce fewer gonads, so there's little commercial demand for them. And as purple urchins multiply and eat more kelp, red urchins with good gonads become harder for divers to find. Finding the right spot to dive is just the first challenge. Getting your hands on these spiky creatures is the main one.
Some people wonder if sea urchin diving is a dangerous occupation. It can be as dangerous as you allow it. If you don't keep really tight tabs on your gear and the mechanics of your boat, it could easily kill you.
To make the job easier, Michael and his partner Fred need specific tools.
So this is the one essential piece of equipment everybody has to have. It's called a rake. It's custom made. Everybody has their own take on how they like to have it done. I've got all these fancy colors on mine because if I ever drop it, I'll be able to see it on the bottom. And my daughter loves putting the tape on.
Once they're suited up, Michael and Fred head to the bottom and begin collecting urchins one by one.
All right.
Even with the proper gear, a good dive is never a guarantee. Typically, there are only about 5 gonads inside each urchin. And without enough kelp for the urchins to feed on, the gonads start to shrivel up. In some cases, an urchin will be totally empty inside.
We do crack urchins on the bottom so that we can see what we're picking, if there's enough product inside, and what the color's like inside.
To make things more challenging, Michael can only harvest urchins at least 3 1/4 inches in size.
You can't just go out and pick empty urchins. So there's a lot more empty urchins than there is beautiful, packed urchins that you want to sell. Depending on what they're eating, depends on the grade of the urchins.
We got lucky on that one.
Oh, right on. Sounds good. Okay, cool, man. See you on the inside there.
Roger that.
After a 12-hour day to the islands and back, Michael returns with 750 to 900 pounds of urchins. The shelf life of fresh urchins is short, so they need to be delivered to processors that same night. By 4 a.m., Gene Damachi's team is already cracking and cleaning each one by hand.
And today we probably have about 10,000 sea urchins to go through.
The gonads are extremely fragile, and they only stay fresh for about a week. Workers crack each urchin down the middle to avoid breaking any of the gonads inside. Then it's time for one of the most crucial parts of this process: cleaning the gonads. This stage requires sharp attention to detail. If workers don't totally remove the intestines inside the urchin, the gonads degrade faster. And if any of the gonads rip during this process, they immediately drop in value.
the gonad breaks, then it drops a grade or two. And when it goes from an A++ grade and we have to drop it down to B grade, the value is maybe about a quarter of what it could have been.
Workers then sort the gonads by color, making sure each tray has a uniform shade of yellow or orange. After they've packed each wooden tray, they use tweezers to inspect each gonad again and gently remove any remaining kelp, shells, or spines. The most valuable gonads make up the A++ grade. Jean sells a 200-gram premium tray like this for $100. These uni are bright yellow or orange and come only from the sweeter male urchins. They're primarily sent to restaurants. But Jean doesn't come by this quality of gonad often. He typically only finds one premium gonad out of every 100 urchins. Sea urchin gonads weren't always valuable food in the US, particularly in the 70s, just before Jean's father opened Tradewind.
The government used to ask the divers, the local divers, to smash them, kill them at the time, until a Japanese person came along and said, no, this is actually a delicacy in Japan. And after many trials and errors, we also found out that Santa Barbara sea urchin is actually really, really good, like one of the best in the world.
Santa Barbara urchin was traditionally shipped to Japan until economic collapse stalled things in the mid-90s. Fortunately for Jean's family and other US producers, a sushi boom took off in the US around the same time.
Those of us that was able to make the transition from the Japanese market into the US domestic market survived at the time.
Today, Jean ships his product across the US.
Uni is one of the few seafood out there that they really haven't perfected farming yet. Until somebody figures that out, uni is probably going to be a limited, highly sought after item.
This ultimately raises the price of rare premium gonads.
This year, we're actually seeing a good quality, high quality uni that we haven't seen in about a decade. We're seeing a lot more colder waters. We're starting to see kelp grow back where it hasn't grown back in the last 10 years.
After a difficult decade, things might be looking up for red sea urchins and the kelp they depend on.
They might not look it, but sea cucumbers are pretty special creatures. Just ask this guy, Stephen Purcell, one of the world's foremost experts on sea cucumbers.
They're quite strange animals. They don't have any limbs, they don't have any eyes, they have a mouth, and they have an anus, and a whole bunch of organs in between.
These otherworldly animals have been prized as a delicacy in Asia for centuries, where the wealthiest class would eat the animals as a nutritious, high-protein treat. But it wasn't until the 1980s that demand exploded. A growing middle class in China meant more people could afford the luxury. Today, they're typically dried and packaged in ornate boxes, then given as gifts and served on special occasions. So, the fancier and more unusual looking, the better. And more expensive. It turns out,
the spikier the animals, the higher the price.
And of the 1,250 different species of sea cucumber in the world, the Japanese sea cucumber takes the cake.
Imagine some sort of a mystical dragon slug with all these sort of spikes coming out of it.
At up to $3,500 a kilo, it's the most expensive sea cucumber on the market, compared to other varieties like the golden sandfish, dragonfish, and curryfish. And even if you order a common species on Amazon, you could still pay over $170 for a plate. Besides presentation, cucumber connoisseurs also value thick, chewy bodies, and to a lesser extent, taste. But the experience of eating them is only part of their appeal. Turns out, sea cucumbers contain high levels of a chemical called fucosylated glycosaminoglycan in their skin, which people across Asia have been using to treat joint problems like arthritis for centuries. And more recently in Europe, where people are using it to treat certain cancers and to reduce blood clots. The sea cucumber craze now comes from all sides. You have the original Asian delicacy demand that started in the 1980s, and the new interest from Western pharmaceutical companies. In response, nations have clamored to harvest their local species. From Morocco to the United States to Papua New Guinea, everyone wants in on the sea cucumber trade.
It's just spread like a contagion from one country to another.
For example, from 1996 to 2011, the number of countries exporting sea cucumbers exploded from 35 to 83. But unfortunately, sea cucumbers couldn't handle the strain. In Yucatan, Mexico, for example, divers saw a 95% drop in their harvest just between 2012 and 2014. And that's a problem for everyone. For one, because the more sea cucumbers are harvested, the rarer and more expensive they become. Average prices rose almost 17% worldwide between 2011 and 2016. And the rarer these animals get, the deeper divers are swimming to find them. That's when fishing gets dangerous.
Some countries, they're doing that without either a lot of training. In some of the tropical countries, you're getting a lot of people either becoming paralyzed through decompression sickness.
So far, at least 40 Yucatan divers have died trying to harvest sea cucumbers. And as demand continues to increase, the problem is only getting worse. Of the 70 or more species of exploited sea cucumbers, 7 are now classified as endangered, all through exploitation, forcing numerous fisheries worldwide to shut down and damaging local economies in the process. So, why not farm sea cucumbers and leave the wild ones alone? Well, it's easier said than done, since many larvae die before reaching maturity. And those that do survive take 2 to 6 years to grow to a marketable size. That said, aquaculture for a few varieties has started to take off, like with that fancy Japanese sea cucumber.
It's now aquaculture in China in the billions.
Hopefully, more species will be farmed instead of fished in the future, if not to protect local economies and help develop potentially life-saving drugs, then at least to preserve a fascinatingly bizarre animal.
Right now, these jasmine buds don't smell like anything. But once they bloom, producers in India process their coveted aroma into one of the priciest oils in the world. Just 1 kilogram of jasmine oil can cost over $5,000. It's a key ingredient in luxury perfumes. But to get 1 kilogram of some jasmine oil, these women need to pluck over 5,000 buds. So what does jasmine smell like? And why is the oil so expensive? For hundreds of years, jasmine has been used in India to make garlands and headpieces for special occasions. Its scent is sweet, fruity, and floral, blending well with other fragrances. And while India grows over 80 varieties of jasmine, Jasmine grandiflorum and sambac are 2 of the most commercially valuable.
It's been considered very divine. And sambac, especially even amongst other flowers, is considered 1 notch superior. It's the most preferred flower.
Jasmine sambac has this ease, this friendliness, this happiness. It is a joyful scent.
Jasmine sambac thrives in Madurai, the jasmine capital of India. Like any flower, jasmine produces a strong scent only after it blooms. But local sellers don't want jasmine flowers, they want the buds. That's because once the flower blooms, the scent only lasts a few days. The buds last longer, so they're easier to transport, whether it be for garlands or oil extraction. Raja runs a jasmine oil company, but before Raja can produce the oil, he'll need to wait for the day's harvest. Jasmine is a night-blooming flower. To maximize the harvest and ensure the buds make it to the markets in time, harvesters head to the fields early. Rati is one of a handful of women tasked with plucking the buds. It's not as simple as grabbing each bud she sees.
Only the right bud blooms that day. Otherwise, it's not going to bloom. So if it doesn't bloom, no fragrance.
Deciphering which buds to harvest requires a keen eye. one that Rati has trained over the last 10 years in these fields.
இந்த பூவு இன்னைக்கு பறிக்கிற பூவு இந்த பூவு இன்னைக்கு எடுக்க மாட்டோம் அது 2 நாள் கழிச்சு எடுப்போம் இது 2 நாள் கழிச்சு இதை எடுப்போம் இது பூத்த பூவு நேற்று பூத்த பூவு இதை எடுக்க மாட்டோம் இந்த பூவை நாங்கள் பூத்த பூவை எடுக்கவே மாட்டோம்.
Rati goes to each bush one by one, plucking thousands of buds before she collects a kilogram of jasmine. Gathering that much takes her about an hour. The work must be done gently by hand, so as not to damage the buds. Damaged or wilted buds mean more work for Rati.
Jasmine is a very laborious picking process. As a kilo of jasmine, just to give you a perspective, will have about 5,000 to 6,000 independent flowers. So to pick 1 kilo, they have to move 5,000 times. The hand moves back and forth 5,000 times to pick just 1 kilo of flowers.
But that's still a tiny fraction of the buds needed to produce a kilogram of oil. For 1 kilogram of jasmine oil, Raja needs 1 metric ton, or 1,000 kilograms of flowers. As she works, Rati collects the buds in her sari to protect them and preserve their fragrance.
சவுக்கரை பேத்தில் கொட்டினா பூ வெந்துடும் மார்க்கெட்டு போகவங்களையும் பூ வெந்துடும் எடுக்க மாட்டாங்க மார்க்கெட்டில் கட்ட முடியாது வண்ண முடியாது பூ வெயிலுக்கு வெந்துடும் சாக்கையில் போட்டு அனுப்புனா அது பூ வெந்துடும் அது வச்சு நாங்கள் சாரில் கட்டி.
She'll harvest for about 5 hours straight. It's tedious and tiring, but it's critical for her to keep moving before it gets too hot. Then the buds head to the local market.
இங்கே வந்து நிலக்கோட்டையில் மல்லி தரம்பாக்கு வந்திருக்கோம் குவாலிட்டி பார்த்து எடுத்து கம்பெனிக்கு அனுப்பிச்சிட்டு போயிட்டே இருக்கோம்.
Murugan is used to the market's chaotic energy. He's been sourcing jasmine for oil production for 18 years. Practically all corners of the market are full of buyers, bags of jasmine buds, and scales to determine the proper quantity for sale. The rate today is 500 rupees per kilogram. Before buying, he assesses the buds closely to determine if the size will be worth the price.
இது சைஸ் ஸ்மால் சைஸு பொடிசு இதில் ஓப்பன் ஆனால் வாசனை இருக்காது ஸ்மால் கம்மியாக இருக்கும் இது ஃபேக்ட்ரிக்கு சென்ட்டுக்கு போட மாட்டோம் இது நல்லா இருக்கும் பெஸ்ட் குவாலிட்டி இதை போடுவோம் இது நல்லா ஸ்மெல் இருக்கும் நல்லா ஓப்பன் ஆகும் நல்லாவும் இருக்கும்.
When the sun has set, Raja's employees begin unloading bags full of jasmine buds back at the factory. The first step is to spread them out with rakes, and then again with their hands and feet. Spreading out the buds is crucial to preserving them. Leaving them in a big pile would generate heat, which would again cause them to wilt. Then Raja's team waits until the flowers begin to bloom.
The minute it starts blooming, it starts emitting the fragrance. And then after some time, you can see emits a bad fragrance. So, there's a constant chemical reaction that's happening in the flower. For us, it's so important to capture the fragrance at the right moment, which is soon after it blooms, which is the best in terms of yield and the smell.
Like several other white flowers, jasmine is rich in indole. Ironically, indole is found in feces too. In the case of feces, there's too much indole, so it produces an unpleasant smell. But in limited amounts, it creates an appealing aroma, as it does with jasmine. When the jasmine has bloomed, Raja's team loads the flowers into 4 5,000-liter extractors. The flowers then soak in a solvent. Once the solvent absorbs the smell of the flowers, they remove all of the liquid. They're left with this waxy, hard substance called concrete. It's what Raja uses to finally extract the oil.
You add alcohol into the concretes, and then the concrete is separated off the waxes, it's filtered, and then we get the absolute.
Jasmine Sambak is the most coveted of all jasmine flowers, hence the high price. At its peak, jasmine Sambak flowers can cost 10 times more than other types of jasmine. And when it comes to the final price of the oil, the majority of it depends on the cost of the flower itself.
about 60%, the bulk of the cost, is attributed towards the flower cost itself. So it varies depending on the price of the flowers every year. The cost of 1 kilo of concrete is around $2,750 to $3,000. And the absolute is almost a double, like 5,500 plus per kilo of absolute.
But jasmine sambac oil wasn't always this valuable. In fact, Raja says it was rarely harvested before the launch of Dior's J'adore fragrance.
That was when the sambac became the in thing. Before that, sambac was grown in India, but it was not really extracted.
Today, jasmine oil extracts travel from India all the way to Paris, where they will be used in many high-end fragrances, particularly at Guerlain. Guerlain sources jasmine sambac oil directly from Raja.
The signature of the house is made with jasmine and 5 other ingredients. So jasmine is almost everywhere.
The company produces all of its fragrance blends in-house, including Mont Guerlain.
Jasmine sambac is the star of Mont Guerlain. You have the top note of lavender, blend then in the jasmine sambac florals you enjoy. Then comes the sandalwood and the vanilla. This is such a soft and beautiful fragrance. You know, it's weird. Sometimes you even surprise yourself. Smelling memories.
This soup is prepared with a very special ingredient. A nest of the swiftlet bird.
Ito naman yung laway ng laway mismo ng ibon. Hindi katulad ng ibang ibon na yung ginagawa nilang pugad is yung mga dahon-dahon.
The soup is considered a delicacy around the world. One bowl can cost as much as $100. Harvesters have to climb slippery cliffs just to find and collect the coveted nests. We went to the Philippines to find out how this infamous dish is prepared and why it's such a rare treat. Meet Robin Palacio Jr. He's a chef at Lidans, a restaurant here in Taytay.
Gagawa ako ng lomi with special ingredients. Yun na po yung nest. Ito po yun siya.
Lomi is a traditional Filipino soup made with egg noodles, meat, and vegetables. Preparing it is simple. You start by simmering some garlic and onion in olive oil. Then Chef Robin adds veggies and noodles before the swiftlet nest goes in. It only takes about 45 seconds for the nest to cook. And he adds some of the nest in the end as garnish. The nests are rich in protein and amino acids. And they cost between $1,000 to $10,000 per kilogram, depending on the quality.
Sa tingin ko, yung kumakain lang ng soup ng balin sa sayaw, yung mga mayayaman lang talaga. Kaya nilang bilhin kasi medyo may kamahalan talaga. Yung mga katulad natin, medyo parang wala na lang.
Gathering the main ingredient requires years of experience. Alvin Villarendo climbs cliffs that are up to 100 feet high with no harnesses or safety gear.
Kunting pagkakamali mo lang, wala na, diretso na talaga, laglag ka na talaga.
The men in Alvin's family have been doing this job for generations. Their ancestors discovered the caves on Nabat Island hundreds of years ago. Now they're the only ones allowed to pick the nests during harvest season between December to April. Alvin can find as many as 2,500 in those 5 months. Locals also believe in the healing power of bird's nest soup.
Sobra sigurong daming makukuhang benepisyo sa medicine ng isang ang isang tao na makakain ng soup ng balin sa sayaw.
Alvin's wife Marby drank it after giving birth.
Ano yung healthy yung aking katawan. Tapos pagdating sa baby, kasi breastfeed, malakas siya, nagpapagatas talaga siya.
Studies show the soup is high in sialic acids, which improve neurological and intellectual function in infants. And here in the Philippines, people claim it has other health benefits too.
Ting sa sexual ng lalaki daw, malaking tulong daw yan. Kahit sa mag-asawa.
Nakatanggal siya ng hangover sa mga manginginom.
While those claims haven't been proven, the soup is still a favorite in China, Indonesia, and among locals in the Philippines.
Yun lang masasabi ko talaga sa kanya. Amazing talaga siya.
Yung lumi.
This is ambergris. It might look like a rock, but it's actually a rare kind of whale poop. And it's not cheap. Per gram, ambergris can cost more than silver, 30 times more. If you've ever worn perfume, well, I've got some unsettling news. You may have misted yourself with animal waste. You see, for centuries, perfumers have been using ambergris to enhance their fragrances. It's essentially a clump of squid beaks, bound by a fatty secretion. Over time, it balls up in the intestine of some sperm whales, and eventually, out it goes. Now, in the strictest sense, it's not technically poop, but scientists think it exits the same way, if you catch my drift.
One way or another, a big boulder of ambergris is released into the ocean and then floats for decades, who knows how long.
And in that time, the mass transforms from a sticky dung-like substance into a hard gray chunk. And this, believe it or not, is what perfumers covet. For one, it contains a unique chemical that works as a fixative, which means it makes other smells in perfume last longer. But ambergris is also valued for something incredibly surprising. Apparently it smells good.
It's like a bouquet of 20 or 30 different chemical compounds. They each have their own odor profile. One will smell sort of like mushrooms. One will smell a little bit like tobacco. One smells like poop. One smells sort of like grass and hay.
Sounds great. Well, apparently perfume designers use strong scents like those as the base note for their fragrances. And base notes form the foundation of any perfume. One company in particular has several expensive perfumes with base notes of ambergris. Perfumes in this collection can sell for around $500 a bottle and are described as a passionate love letter in fragrant form. And while ambergris has all the makings for a great perfume, what really drives up the price tag is simply how rare it is. Scientists don't know exactly why, but only about 1% of sperm whales produce this substance. In fact, researchers like Dr. Shane Garrow, who spend years studying sperm whales, never end up seeing it.
I've been collecting sperm whale poo for 15, 16 years, and I haven't ever collected anything that I was like, oh, maybe this is, a tiny little ambergris ball.
Sometimes lucky beachgoers will stumble upon it. In 2006, for example, a couple picked up a 32-pound piece on a beach in Australia. Media outlets later reported that it could be worth nearly $300,000. But more often, ambergris hunters will get to it first. They track weather patterns and ocean currents to predict where it might end up. And once they find it, they sell it to brokers or perfumers for up to $7,200 a pound.
This is like gold to them. This is a real commodity, so they take it very seriously. They can be a bit aggressive, muscular, and they really closely guard their secrets.
But the commodity's high price isn't the only reason they do it. In some countries, like the US, buying, selling, or even collecting ambergris is illegal. That's because sperm whales are an internationally threatened species.
Before whaling started actively, both historical and modern whaling, there was over 1 million sperm whales, and now we're down closer to a fifth of that.
And while no whales are harmed in the collection of ambergris, Garrow says that it's never a good idea to buy or sell products from an endangered species. But until we can replicate something that smells as good as that whale poop, people will probably keep buying and selling ambergris.
Luxury cousins of the mushroom, truffles are an indulgent food enjoyed across the world. But these fragrant fungi will cost you. In 2014, the world's largest white truffle was flown to New York, accompanied by a security guard, and sold at auction for $61,000. Discovered in Italy, this gigantic fungus weighed almost 2 kilos. So what is it that makes them so expensive? There are a lot of types of truffle. There are at least 40 species, many of which aren't edible, and new species have been discovered as recently as 2018. You've probably seen luxury truffle products in supermarkets or fancy restaurants, but the unique truffle flavour you recognise might not be real truffle at all. Cheap truffle oil often hasn't been anywhere near a real truffle. Many cheaper truffle products use 2,4-dithiapentane, a synthesized compound containing one of the main aromatic components of foot odor, guaranteed to give it that earthy taste. Real truffles are seasonal and pricey, with a short shelf life. They were originally sniffed out using truffle pigs, but while pigs are very good at finding truffles, they're also very good at eating them too. And these days, dogs are much more common truffle hunting companions. These fungi can be found across the world, but they all require a very specific climate to grow. While different varieties may have somewhat different requirements, one thing is certain: you can't have truffles without trees.
Truffles are always found with trees, and they have to be the right type of trees. Under the ground, the truffle is just the fruiting body, so in equivalent to an apple. And we've also got a lot of then what we call the mycelium, microscopic level threads, up to 100 meters in a teaspoon of soil. And this mycelium is actually attached to the roots of a tree, like the fingers on a glove onto a hand. And it sort of extends the reach of the tree out, and it actually takes up water and nutrients and passes them through the tree, and the tree gives it sugars in return, so to help the truffles, the fruit, develop.
Even when you have exactly the right conditions, truffles aren't guaranteed, and hunting them is a labour-intensive process. Once you know where to look, you have to sniff out and dig up each truffle by hand, and they can be tricky to find.
Good boy, thank you, good boy, come. So he's told us it's there, it's still in the ground, so do I want to take it out of the ground or not? It all depends on if it's ripe. If it's unripe, there's no point in having it. So the nose comes into play, and we actually sniff the ground for it.
It may take a while, but finding a good one can make it worth the work.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah, that's probably about 70, 80 grams.
Truffles also have a short season, often appearing for only a few months of the year. And even when you do get your hands on them, they don't last for long.
An unripe truffle, unlike a tomato, which you could cut from the vine and ripen on your windowsill, once a truffle is out of the ground, the clock is ticking, it's just sort of slowly going to degrade over time. So we want to get that to customers nice and fast.
After just 5 days out of the ground, that pungent truffle smell will have halved. You can farm many truffle varieties, besides the rare Italian whites. And many people have been successful in setting up truffle orchards, but it's not easy. Trees need to be planted in the right soil conditions, inoculated with truffle fungus, and often irrigated constantly. It can take as long as 6 years before you get a good truffle harvest, and there's no guarantee that the fungi will grow at all. So after all that effort, what do they actually taste like?
Oh.
The smell just made me think it was going to be really strong. The flavour's actually quite subtle. There's a nuttiness there, there's like an earthy flavour there.
Actually quite light and fragrant. It tastes a lot nicer than it smells. It smells like damp socks.
That's good. I mean, this is the first time I actually eat a truffle by itself. You know, it's a bit like mushroom, but it's more of a meaty bite.
These days, farming has taken over as our primary source of truffles, and today 70% of the world's truffles are cultivated. Through the loss of woodland and climate change, the number of wild truffles has decreased significantly. Since the 19th century, production in France has fallen from over 1,000 tonnes a season to just 30 tonnes, and climate change could mean that truffles will disappear altogether in the future.
The weather conditions are so important, not just immediately over the whole season. We're getting much lower numbers and much lower average size. A truffle is something like 70% water, so it needs rainfall to help it grow. Some UK truffle scientists are thinking that your traditional areas, the climate is going to move further north, and they're not going to have a truffle industry within, I think, perhaps 50 years. There's threats, there's opportunities, but rain, we do need rain. When we get a dry summer, the holidaymakers and that are delighted, but I keep crossing my fingers for a bit of rain every now and again.
For thousands of years, agarwood has been known as the wood of the gods. First-grade agarwood can cost as much as $100,000 per kilogram, making it one of the most expensive raw materials in the world. But for this tree to produce any agarwood, it must first become infected with mold. So how does this infection process work? What is agarwood used for? And what makes it so valuable? Aquilaria malacensis is a tree native to the rainforests of Southeast Asia. Prior to infection, the healthy heartwood inside Aquilaria trees is pale, odourless, and worthless. However, in the wild, damage to the tree by external forces, such as grazing animals, sporadically results in the growth of a specific type of fungal infection inside the tree, called Phylophthora parasitica. The Aquilaria's defense to this attack is to produce a stress-induced aromatic resin, called aloes, which is dark and moist. Over the course of several years, the aloes slowly embed into the heartwood to create agarwood.
Với kinh nghiệm của những người đi rừng á, thì thường người ta đến cái cây đó, người ta nhìn vào, người ta có thể đoán được là cái con kiến nó đục vào cái lỗ đấy. Rồi khi nó đục vào là nó gây cái vết thương, rồi nó trú ngụ ra vào, rồi nó đem những cái vi sinh vật hoặc cái vi khuẩn hoặc các bào tử nấm ở các nơi nó đem vào. Thì cái cây đó, cái con kiến nó ở trong con kiến nó có một cái chất dịch ở trong con kiến, nó tiết ra, nó làm cho cái vết thương nó tổn thương, thì cái gió nó mới đưa nhựa nó bao lại, lâu ngày nó thành chậm.
Once agarwood is harvested, it needs to be separated from the healthy Aquilaria wood around it. In a painstaking task that often takes hours, resin-infused chips, also known as oud, are carved out by hand. Oud chips are commonly used as incense, particularly in the Middle East, where they're burnt both as tokens of hospitality and infused into clothes and garments as a perfume.
Khi đốt lên đầu tiên là mình thấy cái khói nó lên trước, rồi có cái mùi hương thơm nó tỏa ra. Thơm nó tỏa ra cái mùi rất là thơm đặc trưng của trầm hương, không có cái hương nào bằng nó hết. Rồi sau đó nó mới từ từ nó có mùi ngọt dịu lại, mà nó kéo dài có thể là 5-3 tiếng đồng hồ nếu trong phòng kín.
Oud is also distilled into an essential oil, and in its purest form, aged oud oil can cost up to $80,000 per litre, earning the nickname amongst traders of liquid gold. As its popularity continues to grow in the West, oud has become a common ingredient in several high-value fragrances, adding a warm, musky aroma. But due to unsustainable production and poaching, all varieties of Aquilaria trees are now classified as critically endangered, with experts estimating the global population has declined by 80% over the last 150 years. Even for those surviving Aquilaria trees, the frequency of natural fungal infection is extremely low. Some estimates say only 2% of wild Aquilaria trees are adequately infected to produce agarwood naturally. meaning the hunt to find natural agarwood is extremely arduous.
Rồi cái tốp đấy chẳng hạn 5 người, 10 người đi có thể là đi 15, 20 ngày, nhưng mà khi mà có trầm ngày nào sớm ngày nào thì về ngày đấy thôi. Có khi đi thì cũng chẳng có đâu. Có khi đi cả 10 mấy 20 hôm về cũng chẳng có gì hết. Rất là nguy hiểm. Nào là mưa, gió, đèo, núi, rồi thú rừng, rắn rết đủ thứ. Nên bỏ mạng là trong rừng là chuyện thường thôi. Cái thời đó là bỏ mạng là chuyện thường. Bây giờ không còn trầm nữa, hết rồi. Bây giờ trong rừng là không còn trầm. Tức là cái dân mình đã khai thác ra tận hết rồi, không còn nữa.
With natural agarwood now bordering on extinction, in some forestries, like this one managed by Truong in Vietnam, trees are artificially inoculated with a microbial compound to induce the all-important resin.
Trầm tự nhiên thì dân gian mình thường nói là nó trong thiên nhiên nó hiếm, nó khó, nên là họ chuộng. Nhưng sự thực nếu mà nói về cái chất lượng trầm nhân tạo với trầm thiên nhiên thì bây giờ chưa chắc trầm nhân tạo đã thua trầm thiên nhiên. Đúng, trầm tự nhiên bây giờ giá trị còn rất là cao, chẳng hạn như nó có thể gấp 100 lần cái trầm nhân tạo. Vì cái trầm tự nhiên là bây giờ nó không còn nữa, nên người ta có muốn đưa cái giá nào vẫn được. Còn cái trầm nhân tạo là dân gian người ta biết là cái này làm từ con người mà ra, nên tự đánh cái giá nó thấp xuống.
Agarwood was described as a fragrant product of wealth and luxury in one of the world's oldest written texts, the Sanskrit Vedas, dating back as early as 1400 BC. The aroma produced from agarwood has been highly valued by many cultures and religions throughout history. In the Nirvana Sutra, aloes is mentioned as a heavenly wood used in the cremation of Buddha. In the New Testament, Jesus' body was anointed with a mixture of myrrh and aloes following his crucifixion. And in the Sahih al-Bukhari hadith, the description of paradise by Allah's messenger includes the burning of agarwood as incense. The global market for agarwood is estimated to be worth a staggering $32 billion. But where oud was once so common, high demand has not only increased the price, but also the rate of harvesting and artificial production. By the end of 2029, the market is expected to double to $64 billion.
Theo tôi, cái kinh nghiệm lâu năm thì cái trầm hương này không có mai một đâu. Trầm hương sau này nó là một cái vật sản quý giá cho đất nước đấy. Vì cái này là nguồn cung có khi không đủ cầu đâu. Vì tất cả các thế giới này, trên thế giới bây giờ hầu như họ tập trung vào cái ngành trầm hương hết. Từ thượng vàng hạ cám chẳng hạn như là tinh dầu, đến trầm, rồi đến hương nhang đấy, rồi tiện chuỗi hạt đeo tay, vòng đeo cổ, đấy nó không có mai một đâu. Nhưng mà có cái là bây giờ trước tiên sợ dân mình không có vốn để đầu tư thôi.
Gold jewelry, gold skincare, and even gold-coated food. The allure of gold is nothing new, but the precious metal is the most expensive it's ever been.
This is 1 kilo of gold. 20 years ago, it was worth $11,000, and today, $63,000.
Gold has been on a meteoric rise since 2024, and the price has hit record highs several times this year. But this modern-day gold rush isn't just pushing everyday people to buy gold bars. It's led to consequences in Africa's gold-rich nations. Foreign mining companies have moved in to extract the resource to meet the growing demand.
They destroy the land. They turn the soil ore. Nothing can grow there.
So what exactly is making gold more expensive than ever? And how do the economic decisions of the U.S. affect communities 6,000 miles away? The relationship between humans and gold dates back thousands of years. The Lydians were the first to use gold as currency around 700 BC. Over the following centuries, other civilizations adopted it too, cementing gold's reputation as a global symbol of wealth. In the US, gold mining captured the imagination during the gold rush of 1849, as people flocked to San Francisco in search of buried treasure. In 1900, the US officially adopted the gold standard, a system that established a fixed price of gold in US dollars. Although the US abandoned the gold standard in 1971, gold has always represented material value.
It's been used for thousands of years as a transfer of wealth and a very widely respected way to move value from one place to another.
Today, gold is often considered a safe haven asset. When markets get shaky, people often turn to it to keep their wealth safe.
In normal years, gold only appreciates a regular or small kind of percentage per year. But when things get kind of hairy, that's when you start to see real run-ups and spikes in the price of gold.
Take the years following the 2008 financial crisis, for example. As the stock market was spiraling, gold prices jumped 13% in 2009, 27% in 2010, and 33% in 2011. Gold prices dropped by about 45% when the economy recovered between 2011 and 2015. But COVID-19 sparked another economic downturn in 2020, causing prices to grow 25% and surpass $2,000 an ounce for the first time in history. More recently, on April 2nd, 2025, the day President Donald Trump announced his tariff plan, the markets reacted almost immediately. Apple stock fell more than 7%, Tesla's by more than 6%, and Amazon's by more than 5%. But gold? It was trading higher on the commodities market. Even though the stock market has recovered since April, Goldman Sachs predicts gold will hit a record of $3,700 per ounce by the end of 2025, as people and central banks flock to it for security. Now it seems everyone wants to get their hands on a gold bar. And one retailer is helping meet the demand.
Costco has been cashing in on the gold craze. They are selling out within hours.
People are buying these up to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's been a fascinating place to watch Costco sort of explore this market, and it's built a real niche community of collectors.
Costco has been selling gold bars and coins to its members since 2023.
If you want to own a little bit of gold, the best way to start is with a bar like this.
Demand for them has become so high that in May 2025, the retailer started limiting its customers to one bar at a time.
I came across an individual who said that they had bought some $30,000 worth of gold from Costco this year alone.
Jewelers have also seen an increase in demand. Michael Littman and his cousin Gary run this store in New Jersey. In recent months, they've seen 20% more people coming in trying to sell old jewelry.
Nice to meet you. Please sit.
Let's see what you got.
Okay.
Well, gold is so high now, it's such a great time to sell.
I remember when it was $40 an ounce back in the day.
You know what's great is people typically come in expecting to get, I don't know, a few $100s, and now you can walk out with thousands of dollars. Wow. And it's really nice, especially if you need the money. So your price for this is $1,247. Wow. Isn't that nice?
I didn't expect that.
Where was this in your house?
This was in a drawer in the back of a sock drawer.
There's also a rush to mine gold from electronic waste.
So this gold bar that I'm holding in my hands is about 1.2, 1.3 kilos, and that's the amount of gold that this facility is recovering each day.
When we published the story in early 2024, that bar was worth $85,000. More than a year later, it's worth about $135,000.
Whenever a commodity like gold is in very high demand, that automatically starts to drive up interest in extraction of that commodity from the countries where it's produced.
Countries like Liberia. An estimated 3 million ounces of gold lie deep beneath its lush forests. Mining dramatically increased here in 2008 because of the U.S. financial crisis. Liberia's gold production more than doubled that year. Now, foreign mining companies from places like Turkey, the UK, and Canada are moving in to extract more. This means more competition for locals who'd been mining at a smaller scale. Alex Duru has been mining gold for nearly half of his life.
I saw my brothers doing the money. At the time I was small. When I got mature, I get into money.
Alex mines both independently and for hire with mining companies. Today, he's working with a team of 29 other independent miners. They rely on basic tools.
We don't have machine, we don't have hooves, we dig or shovel. All those things we are passing through here. No working materials.
With the tools they have, it takes a week to reach the layer of sediment that contains gold deposits.
Some places carry 8 feet, some places carry 9 feet hash. We got about 4 more days to get on the gravel, then we can be able to wash.
Alex and his team wash the sediment through a tool called a sluice box, which is lined with a carpet-like fabric that catches the gold. As water and sediment pass through, the heavier gold sinks into the carpet while lighter materials wash away.
The carpet receiving the gold. Then from there, we take our time to do the processing.
Some miners illegally use chemicals like mercury during the washing process. The mercury acts like a magnet, binding the gold particles and making it easier to separate from the sediment. But the toxic chemical can seep into rivers and waterways and cause skin and respiratory issues, neurological damage, and in some cases, death. So Alex and his team don't use it. What's left behind is the miner's small fortune of the day, 2 grams of gold.
Some of the gravel you wash, you get 2 grams. Some day you get 1.5. Some day you get 3 grams.
This amount was worth about $159 at the time of filming. But when foreign competition comes in, gold-rich communities often bear the burden. In November 2024, a Chinese-owned company, Hongtu Mining, signed a 5-year agreement with the community leaders in Boostown to set up gold mining operations. George Brownell Jr. first spotted the site a month earlier while flying his drone over Matcha, a small village 2 miles from Boostown.
When the drone pans to the right of the campsite, you start seeing the mark of the excavators. So I have some before shots of Madhouse prior to the mining. Let's see all the fires. This is what the body of water used to look like. You see people bathing.
When he flew his drone over the area 4 months later, the landscape was unrecognizable.
How fast the environment changed, it just took me by surprise.
Because gold is highly dense, it settles near waterways once erosion breaks down gold-bearing rock. This means rivers, streams, and other bodies of water are most at risk from large-scale mining. Liberia's Environmental Protection Agency said Hongtu violated the country's environmental protocols by diverting and polluting the local river.
I've not physically seen people in that brown water bathing, washing clothes, and people actually attempting to boil the water to use it for cooking.
Locals also accused the foreign-owned company of using heavy machinery like excavators near their farms, allegedly causing deforestation and soil erosion that made it more difficult to grow their food.
Prior to this, a lot of people were involved in agriculture. They were doing small-scale mining. Now, they don't have anywhere to get that daily bread from.
In March 2025, George and several Matt House residents sent a letter of complaint to Liberia's Ministry of Mines and Energy, asking for intervention to stop Hongtu's operations.
And what's their response?
There was no response.
Nothing.
No response.
They couldn't listen to us because we don't have the power. They say we don't get the power to stop them.
You having to drink some of that water, like quick water, where people on our side drinking. You have to drink it bring harm to you.
All of them. All of them are in the convention. They don't have interest. They're not there for the celibacy. They're there for their children and their wives.
Nothing we can achieve on the people. One person just sitting on there, they're enjoying the money because of their position they in, or I don't know.
So George filmed and produced a short documentary and published it on Instagram.
The company that came here, they say they came to help us, but they came to kill us.
Before they work on our creek, they were going to give us safe drinking water. Yes, we agree. Since that time, the company refused to give us safe drinking water and they damaged all our drinking water. They using mercury on the water, the first-class mercury.
There was a ton of people in the diaspora just sharing the video. People were outraged about it.
After the documentary was posted, Liberia's EPA fined the company $40,000 and reportedly confiscated all of Hongtu's contraband materials, effectively shutting down its operations. Hongtu was also required to hire an environmental firm to create a plan to restore Mat House to its pre-mining condition. Still, Hongtu's mining left a lasting scar on the community.
They destroy the land. There is no way for us to make all that thing. Even to make cassava fine, no way. They turn the soil ore, nothing can grow there.
I see it as a form of exploitation. And the community never really benefited from any of the mining that they did over here.
Liberia isn't the only African country feeling the effects of gold mining. Reports have found that mercury and other toxins have polluted about 60% of Ghana's freshwater sources. In October 2024, hundreds of people in Ghana marched through the capital city protesting illicit mining.
We should make sure that we are mining and then we are not spoiling our environment, we are not entering into our forest reserves, and then we are not contaminating our water.
Liberian officials say they are trying to prevent further damage from gold mining, while the locals in Mat House that we talked to worried that the government won't do enough to change things. Either way, the gold boom is sparking more illegal mining, making oversight more difficult.
Most of the resources that have been identified as world-class mines or economically viable mines in Liberia are located in these really hard-to-reach areas, in these remote jungles.
Geraldine Bass lives in the U.S. and co-founded a company that searches for mineral deposits in Liberia.
It takes a lot of resources to get just one field agent to a remote area. In case of an emergency where the EPA has to really go and monitor something, it might take weeks for just one field agent to get out there.
People are fully aware that when they come here, there is virtually no oversight.
Liberia's EPA launched a 5-year plan to improve environmental management and encourage sustainable mining. It includes setting up offices in all 15 counties of Liberia to oversee mining operations and address local environmental issues.
The government of Liberia is trying their best, I would say. I've been working under 2 administrations now, ever since I've been mining in Liberia, and they've been getting better. It's just very difficult.
As Liberia struggles to regulate its mining industry, concerns are growing over how much gold remains to be mined. Geologists estimate that 50,000 tons of gold lie under Earth's crust. If global mining rates continue, scientists believe there could be no more gold left to mine by 2050. Its rarity will likely make gold even more expensive.
Hong Dae-sik has stumbled upon something truly rare.
이게 엄청 좋은 감이거든.
It's a ginseng root that grew naturally in the wild, and it will sell for tens of thousands of dollars.
이게 얼마라고 해? 2천만 원이 넘는다고 이게. 최소한 2천만 원 받아.
But most other classes of ginseng won't sell for anywhere near this much. So what makes this root so special? And why is wild ginseng so expensive? Ginseng is one of the most popular herbs in the world, but there's a wide range for what it'll cost you. On average, a single ginseng root found growing naturally in the wild in South Korea can cost thousands of dollars, depending on its age. Farmed ginseng, on the other hand, could only cost about $25 for 10 roots in South Korea. The third category is in the middle. It's called wild simulated ginseng, and it can cost hundreds to thousands of dollars. For 28 years, Hong Dae-sik has been growing and harvesting wild simulated ginseng in the mountains around Sancheong, South Korea. Wild ginseng used to grow here naturally, but demand for the herb has led to overharvesting, making it incredibly rare to find today, which is why harvesters have moved to growing the similar-looking but less expensive wild simulated variety. In order to harvest wild simulated ginseng, Dae-sik has to plant seeds. But growing this type of ginseng may not be worth the hassle. In fact, 90% of the wild simulated plants Dae-sik grows won't survive.
근데 가령 이래서 100개를 심었다 치면은 한 30년 되면은 10개 미만이야.
This is partly due to the plant's need for ample shade and its sensitivity to high temperatures, overhumidity, and disease. When grown in forests, ginseng is also vulnerable to hungry animals.
이걸 샴을 이 씨앗을 보니까 두더지가 많아. 지하고 산지 두더지가 다 파머리 다니면서 여기도 두더지 굴이 있을 거야. 방금 이제 파니까 있더라고. 여기 있잖아. 여기 굴이.
After 8 years, Dasik can begin harvesting the ginseng he's planted. Harvesting these roots requires special attention and care. Dasik must dig around the root, being careful not to damage any part of it.
이게 뿌리가 그대로 이게 있어야 돼. 그 자연 그대로. 그래야 이 상품성이 있지. 이 잔뿌리라도 하나 떨어지면 상품성이 없는 거야, 이게. 그래서 요런 것은 엄청 비싼 삶이기 때문에 사람들이
Roots that grow in forests are often much smaller, knobbier, and have more growth scars. Similar to trees, growth scars on ginseng can be used to determine its age. And the more scars, the higher the price.
보통 산에서 키우는 사람들은 한 8년 이상 키우면은 이제 출하를 하거든요. 출하를 하는데 한 8년짜리 되면은 한 10만 원 정도, 제대로 큰 거. 속임수 없이 그냥 양심대로 하면 한 10만 원 정도 보면 돼요. 근데 10년이 넘으면은 거의 배를 뛰죠, 이제 가격이. 네. 그럼 한 15년 정도 되면은 한 15만 원에서 20만 원.
But the most expensive ones are both old and found naturally in the wild.
기본적으로 우리가 산삼이라고 이야기하면은 기본 단위가 몇 천만 원에서 몇 억 그렇게 갑니다. 그런 것 같은 경우에는 이렇게 한 3뿌리, 4뿌리 정도 해서 한 1억에서 한 2억 정도 간다.
So why are older and wilder ginseng roots so valuable anyway? Older roots are believed to have higher concentrations of ginsenosides, the all-star bioactive ingredient of ginseng that many believe gives it medicinal benefits. Higher concentrations of these compounds are believed to make the root more potent. But not all of ginseng's benefits have been scientifically verified. While some studies suggest ginseng has medicinal benefits, like reducing pain and improving learning, other studies debate its effects. This study suggests ginseng is no more effective than a placebo in enhancing physical performance. And this larger study suggests that the clinical efficacy of ginseng remains to be established. Once harvested, ginseng spoils quickly at room temperature, so fresh roots are typically consumed immediately, brewed in tea, or preserved in liquors. Because of its short shelf life, a majority of the ginseng products you'll find in stores are sold in liquid, dried, or powdered forms. Since 2011, wild simulated ginseng has been listed as a special forest product in South Korea, with everything from cultivation to distribution controlled by the Korean government. And like other labeling certifications, wild simulated products in Korea need to pass inspections to guarantee their quality and authenticity. This helps ensure the product is high quality and sustainable, while giving ginseng harvesters like Dasik the opportunity to profit from the crop. And as demand for alternative medicines and healthy foods increases, the pressure to supply wild and simulated ginseng will also likely grow, which is why creating a sustainable market for ginseng is more important than ever.
This is jadeite, a stone that is rarer than a diamond. And the hunt for it is so deadly, the jewel is known as blood jade. The hills in Myanmar's Kachin state hold nearly all of it. Every year, dozens of miners are buried and killed by landslides. But what really goes on here has mostly remained a mystery, because the mines are guarded by the military 24/7. So we had to film on a phone. Reports suggest Chinese companies illegally operate the mines, and allegedly exploit desperate workers.
Oh, I don't know. Loaga di muisi ne, shimbi da. When I will change it, low on look, Toby there.
About 90% of the jade mined here is smuggled across the border into China, where it's considered a sacred stone. We went to the mountains of Myanmar to find out how the hunt for a jewel that legend says grants eternal life has killed so many people. Black markets usually come to life after dark because jade is believed to shine brightest in the moonlight. Most sales aren't documented or taxed. But if the gem was sold legally, Myanmar could earn an estimated $31 billion a year. Reports suggest many buyers come from neighboring China, even though selling to foreigners is against the law. In the daytime, about 400,000 people work in mines in the Pakant region, in northern Myanmar's Kachin state. Many Chinese companies bribe officials to illegally operate here. They dump back topsoil after picking out large stones, and they let miners dig through it. 38-year-old Thant has mined here for 7 years. About 75% of miners here are addicted to drugs like heroin and meth. Thant says he'd never tried those drugs before coming here. Now he shoots up multiple times a day. He says some of his Chinese bosses paid portions of his salary with free meals and heroin. He asked us to hide his identity because he feared his employers would retaliate. These claims can be hard to verify because most of the mining happening here is illegal. Not a single mining permit has been issued since a military coup in 2021. The region has seen violent conflict since the early 1960s. The Kachin people who are native to these mountains have been fighting for independence. They have their own army known as the KIA, which has been battling the Myanmar Armed Forces and other ethnic groups. The war has killed thousands of Kachin civilians in the past decade alone. We reached out to the KIA and the Myanmar military, but did not get a response. The conflict has allowed lawlessness to run rampant, as well as the illegal drug trade, which has become a multi-billion-dollar industry across the country. Myanmar is the world's biggest producer of opium and meth. Drugs from here are trafficked to China and nearby countries. The profits are fueling the Kachin War. And jade mining is funding it too. Most of the jade from Myanmar gets smuggled to China, where the stone has been thought to bring good luck and to have healing powers for millennia. Legend says this stone could make their souls live on forever. It has also been found buried alongside royals in ancient tombs. Today, China's wealthiest wear jade as a symbol of status and power. Chinese businesses reportedly pay Myanmar locals up to $400,000 per trip to smuggle trucks of jade into the country. The gem's price grew tenfold in the first decade of the 2000s. And it's still growing exponentially, according to the most recent estimates. There's a cheaper kind called nephrite that's widely sold in Chinatowns around the world. But Myanmar's Cochin State is one of the only places that has jadeite, which is especially green and transparent. So rare that a single bangle can sell for over $3 million. Estimates have found that the Cochin Mountains hold about 90% of it. But they're hollowing out. Miners like Shui Tok search for what's left. He uses a pocket light to check for a hint of green. Dozens get buried alive or drown because of landslides each year. In 2020, a single landslide killed about 200 miners. But Shui says mining is his only option. He came out as a transgender man 7 years ago and has struggled to find jobs ever since. Myanmar is one of the hardest countries to find employment for people who identify as LGBTQ. A nationwide law makes it legal to arrest people who openly express their gender identity. He says he still looked too much like a woman when he started mining here. Few women work in these mines. Some have spoken out about sexual abuse by miners and soldiers. Shui says other men treated him well. And today, many have become close friends. But over the years, Thant has lost many of his. He lives in a hut in a cemetery where some of them were buried. He moved here from a town nearly 300 miles away after his family's house burned down. He promised his wife and children he'd return rich and rebuild their home. He says the drugs help numb the pain.
This small blue gemstone is one of the rarest in the world. And because of the unique way it forms in the earth, bonitoite sparkles even brighter than diamonds, making it incredibly expensive. A single carat can cost over $12,000. But you can only really find this gem in one place. So why is bonitoite so hard to find? And what makes it so expensive?
How is bonitoite different from other gemstones? It has a brighter vitreous luster.
That means it looks like glass, but brighter, shinier. It also has a high dispersion, or fire, meaning it can sparkle more than other gemstones.
So, here we are on the top of the mine.
This is a private mine. It's part of Bonitoite Mining Company, owned by John and Dave Schreiner. The company is stationed here because facet-grade bonitolite can be found in only one location, San Benito County, California. That's why it's the state's gem.
There have been microscopic deposits found in Japan, but so far this is the only place where you can find it where it's actually big enough to hold in your hand and to put in jewelry.
Not knowing how rare it was, miners used to extract bonitolite just like any other gem, with explosions and blunt force. And now, the supply is finite. Gemstones like bonitolite are generally scattered, but sometimes there's a vein underground where concentrated amounts of the gem collect. Bonitolite formed when an oceanic plate and a crustal plate came together. One plate slid under the other and water got trapped in the fault line. Magma then intruded into the fault line and mixed with the trapped water. As cracks and veins formed in the surrounding rock, the superheated mixture flowed into them. Here, the rare element barium bound with titanium, silica, and other elements. Together, they formed bonitolite. But finding the gem is a bit of a guessing game, and if John and Dave guess incorrectly, the cost is high. To help them find where bonitolite might be, they look for this. The white part of the rock is nitrolite, and the dark part, blue schist. These are two minerals that surround and protect bonitolite. If they see the white, it may mean they found a bonitolite vein. And when the vein breaks out onto the surface, it's referred to as an outcrop.
A big vein or a big outcrop of bonitolite was right here, and it had fallen against the mountain. That was dug out, dynamited, all the material off the top of it's gone. That doesn't mean there's not stones here. They're all over the place.
Yet a bonitolite vein hasn't been found here since the late 1990s. So today, John and Dave are mining in a location they think has potential. They have to narrow down where they think the vein is, because excavating and drilling is expensive, and they can't afford to be wrong. Core drilling alone will cost them $200,000.
Funding is always an issue. Mining is not a cheap venture. Normally that's what's holding us back, just having the funds to actually move forward.
So as they work up to that funding, they're also working to confirm exactly where the vein is. After they load all the material they excavated, they can begin processing it to see if there's a concentration of bonitolite. That starts with sorting.
This is the first stage of the wash plant. Right over here is where the material gets dumped in originally. So everything above 1.5 inches gets stopped right there.
After this, John can locate larger specimens that need to be acid etched, where acid is used to carefully break off the bonitolite from its surroundings. They also screen for everything under 1/8 inch, and the sorted material goes up a long conveyor belt to be washed in the trammel. The trammel shakes and cleans the rocks before they hit the blacklight room. Bonitolite is fluorescent, so the Shriners use UV light to identify the gem without damaging it. After, he screens and washes all the fluorescent pieces and collects the best ones.
There's one of them. That is a bonitolite.
Even though John found some good pieces of bonitolite, today's excavation was just okay.
This is good. We've done better.
Still, he and Dave remain hopeful. They're confident that they're getting really close to locating that vein.
Finding another bonitolite vein would be outstanding. It would change a lot of things. That is the direction we're going in and that we want to go in. It's financially hindering, but we are getting there.
But even if John and Dave find a vein, it doesn't mean all the bonitolite they excavate can be sold for top dollar. Bonitolite is a naturally small gem, like diamonds, so most of the rocks they find can't be faceted into a clean, clear gem.
On average, you lose about 80% of the stone during the cutting process. It also depends on how clean you want the stone to be.
But the remarkable and highly valuable properties of bonitolite make all this work worth it.
What's also very unique about bonitolite is that it is doubly refractive. So when the light enters the stone, it splits into two rays.
This creates a doubling effect, giving bonitolite a complex internal appearance. Yet on the surface, it looks like light bounces off the gem on all sides. The depth these qualities create is enriched by the stone's color, which shows in the price.
In a colored gemstone is color. Color, color, color is the first and last and most important factor affecting value in a colored gemstone. And depth also holds the color. Like a deeper stone can have a deeper color, and that makes it more valuable. The darker the color, the more valuable the stone typically is. It is amazing. Anytime you look at something like this and you think, how in the world did this ever happen? That I could be holding something in my hand that represents such an amazing geological formation and event, and what had to happen for all of this to occur.
This pile of dirt came from one of the most valuable emerald mines in the world. Hundreds of people scavenged through waste by hand to uncover a few tiny stones.
Es muy común que hayan fracturas. Han salido personas con la clavícula fracturada, tobillos.
For Nidian, it's worth the risk. She used her last big score to pay off her debts and buy a home. But she hasn't found anything valuable in a year. Just a few miles away, commercial operations backed by foreign investors say they find emeralds every hour. Some sell for a fortune.
Retail a stone like this could go for about $500,000.
So what happens when foreign investors take over a $150 million industry? And can local miners gain a piece of it back? Emeralds form when hydrothermal fluids collect and mix beryllium with chromium or vanadium. The elements crystallize in deposits and form the storied green gems. But Colombia has a secret ingredient. It's one of the few places on Earth where emeralds form in shale instead of igneous rock. Shale contains the ingredients for emeralds, but it also creates byproducts like sulfur and pyrite. The sulfur absorbs some of the iron that would normally go into an emerald. Less iron means a more saturated green color. And for emerald buyers, color is king.
Diamonds have been out there for a long time. Color stone is now another different league of valuation of stones.
57, around 35,000 per carat.
Buyers around the world covet these emeralds, but the profit is rarely seen by those who live around the mines. This is Muso. Miners have fought over the town's emeralds for centuries. Some line up as early as 3 a.m. for what's known as the voladora.
Me imagino teniéndola en la mano. Yo antes de tenerla, yo ya he planificado qué voy a hacer con ella.
Nidian is a guaquero, or guaquera in her case. She's an informal miner, sort of like a prospector during the California gold rush.
Yo le tengo mucha fe a la esmeralda, pero es mentalidad, es suerte, es energía. No sabemos qué es, pero así es la esmeralda.
But to have a shot at finding something, you need to be ready to run. Nidian claims her spot and digs for treasure the size of a pebble. This debris comes from the nearby Puerto Arturo mine, which is backed by US investors.
pues entre nosotras nos respetamos, ¿no? Ya lo que hizo la señora que entra de última. Y si la regalamos, le dije, le regalo un platado y me sacó 2, pues claro, me dio rabia. Si hay una chispa y brota y usted está mirando para otro lado, la cogen y a la boca o a las botas y calla ahí. Cuando hay dinero o esmeraldas involucrados, no hay amigos. A veces ni familia.
The oldest guaqueros remember when mine runoff flowed through this river and fines were more common. But environmental regulations and modernised excavation put a stop to that. Nivian spent 4 hours digging and sifting.
Sacamos unas chispitas que algo han de valer. No mucho, no es nada, pero vale. Hay ocasiones en las que no sacamos absolutamente nada.
These small stones are probably worth less than $25 each. Voladoras happen sporadically, so her next opportunity won't be for another few weeks.
A ver, cuéntenos cómo le fue en la mina que hizo ayer que...
Usted quería grabar y se cayó.
A mí que me estaban grabando y me caí. O sea, yo sí me he caído. No, pero no grabaron la caída, menos mal.
No.
Ahí sí me hubiera vuelto viral. Qué trágico va a ser que usted vaya y por cargarse un bulto al hombro se saque 10, 20, 30, 50 millones. Eso no es trágico. Trágico es uno trabajar en una ciudad 8 horas diarias, incluso a veces yo he llegado a trabajar 12 horas por un salario. Eso sí es triste. Eso sí es trágico.
But the more formal and modern the mines become, the less that's left for the guaqueros. And the fight to control Colombia's emeralds has raged for generations. In the mid-20th century, the Colombian government tried to nationalize the mines, but the remote area proved impossible to control. So in the 1970s, the government leased titles to local leaders called dons, hoping that collecting royalties would be easier than direct management.
This is in the middle of the Colombian mountains. You feel that you are in a completely different country and it's very isolated. That made elites, local elites, regional elites, able to basically hold power that was not attached to a creation of a central state.
The dons were locals, some even former guaqueros. They won loyalty by letting their miners pocket and sell small emeralds, as long as they didn't get caught taking too much.
These were people who accumulate a lot of power and power that could become violent in many ways. But at the same time, they will become the ones who will provide jobs and economic benefits to the population.
This power made the dons rich, but it cost thousands of lives. Beginning in 1965, countless messy fights erupted between dons, illegal miners, paramilitaries, and drug traffickers in a series of conflicts known as the Green Wars. Fighting dragged on until a ceasefire in 1990.
It was basically an agreement of not killing each other. For the most part, when I went in the early 2000s, many people were saying, oh, the peace is holding here.
By the 2010s, sustained peace had attracted the eye of international investors, and control of the mines shifted from the dons to foreign companies with deep pockets. But even this didn't come without conflict. In the past decade, miners in Mosul have repeatedly clashed with an American-backed company over access to emeralds. And in late 2024, tensions spiked again. In November, the voladora was suspended and guaqueros protested by blocking roads and forcing their way onto mine property. In January, the governor of the Department of Boyacá met with mine owners and local leaders to discuss improving conditions for the guaqueros, like formalizing the voladora and prioritizing local labor and goods.
Garantiza que podamos seguir teniendo paz y sana convivencia en la región.
But at the time of publishing, there hasn't been a voladora for 3 months. However, locals say outside investment has brought benefits as well. Just a few kilometers away from Mosul as the crow flies, but nearly a day's journey by bumpy roads, lies one of the biggest emerald mines in Colombia. This is the Cosquez mine. Fura Gems, a company based in Dubai, acquired a majority stake in 2017. The company poured $150 million into modernizing and expanding the vast tunnels. Today, Fura exports 500,000 carats annually. Just 10 years ago, this mine looked very different. Tunnels were narrow, and miners pushed around small quantities of ore by hand.
When we came, it was hardly like a mine of a 1 by 1 meter. And right now, we are standing here by 4 by 4. Even your car can pass through this mine. This is going to be the largest mine of emerald in the world.
But Fura's investment means there's less and less available for locals. Like these women, known as artisanal tunnel miners.
Lo más duro, pues en sí, aquí el trabajo, que esto es que todo el mundo dice que es para varones, pero olvídese, nosotros también tenemos la fuerza, la capacidad, la inteligencia también de nosotros sacar esmeralda.
They do things the old way. Smaller tunnels, limited equipment, and more dangerous conditions. Many artisanal miners have applied for an official mining title to legitimize their claim, a process the National Mining Agency says it's made easier to access.
Encontrarnos una esmeralda de tal valor que nos dé para una casa y pues en la mía personal, tener un negocio que me solvente el día a día.
But the piece that enabled Fura to thrive hasn't helped small-scale miners financially. Janet might go all year without making any profit.
When you see the value or the price that a very good emerald can have in the market, is not something that like most of these towns will see as their income in a lifetime.
But for the 500 workers Fura employs, the recent foreign investment has been life-changing. Some, like Carmenza, were happy to give up artisanal tunnel mining.
Era un trabajo muy agotador. No teníamos buena ventilación, buen sostenimiento. Todos los días uno se iba con ese, con ese miedo, ¿sí? Que le pasara a uno algo. Yo un día ingresé, estando recogiendo la tierra, me cayó, me salvé porque pues donde la piedra me caiga encima empecé a pedir auxilios. Es algo muy riesgoso, es algo muy peligroso y pues yo le doy gracias a Dios porque estoy contando el cuento en estos momentos acá con ustedes.
The hunt for green starts with a hunt for white, calcite. even valuable emeralds are relatively small. So calcite veins in which the gems often form are a signal to miners to look closely.
Es algo que pues es suerte, es la suerte pues. Todas las esmeraldas son valiosas, pero pues todas no son de la misma calidad, ni grande no. grande no.
If the area is promising, miners clear away the rock and add supporting material. Then, it's time to get up close. This is the most exhausting part of the job. But today, Carmenza's work is rewarded. And just like the guaqueros, miners can't beat a trusty metal bowl for catching loose gems. But one big difference compared to Nidian is that anything Carmenza finds, she promptly puts into a lockbox. Supervisors even check her mask and boots for smuggled gems. Workers at Fura are paid with a salary, not emeralds. Carmenza says it's still exciting to find one, even though she can't take it home.
Que está la producción es algo de alegría, pues se motiva uno a seguir en el chequeo, porque uno se va con esa que hay más esmeralda en el frente.
Back in 2018, the washing process looked similar to what the guaqueros do by hand. Now, it's on a whole other level. Optical sorters, equipped with cameras and ultraviolet lights, detect and redirect emeralds. But meticulous washing means there's little left over for guaqueros like Nidian. In fact, Fura doesn't provide debris for the voladora. It says it uses leftover shale for road maintenance and infrastructure around the mine.
Cuando yo ingresé como minera artesanal, se trabajaba como con esa desconfianza porque pues se presentaba mucho, uno ingresaba al frente de trabajo y bueno, que las peleas, que una cosa, otra. Pasa más tiempo acá que en casas. Acá ya es una familia más para uno. Yo soy madre, cabeza de hogar, tengo 2 niños por los cuales yo soy la que me veo pues reflejada en el trabajo para ellos, para llevarles pues sus alimentos, su mensualidad a ellos, para ayudas de sus alimentos. Entonces me siento muy feliz de estar trabajando acá.
It's a steady job in a place without many other options. But most of the money generated from emerald mining doesn't stay in the communities around Cosquez or Muso.
Most of the profit, of course, is being made by the owners of the mines, but it's also being made internationally for those who trade the emeralds, and those profits never touch the regions where the emeralds are produced.
Each year, Colombia exports about $130 to $150 million worth of emeralds. One of the top buyers is the US.
Demand for emeralds is increasing, and people are buying from all corners of the world. People think, oh, you own a mine, it's easy. It's tons of headaches.
Michael invested in a mine in Colombia to source the quality of gems he's after.
Of course, the bigger, the better, but we look in terms of the quality. What's the best of the quality to have? A lighter emerald is less valuable than a darker emerald. Also, too dark is also not correct. The average price per carat is anywhere from $5,000 to $35,000, $40,000.
Michael sells emeralds wholesale to jewelers like Tiffany, and he says emeralds he's sold have shown up on the red carpet and at royal weddings.
Without Muso entering in 2009, without Fura coming in 2017, I wouldn't think to be involved in mining.
For Michael, the peace and modernization brought by foreign investors has been a welcome change.
The American company coming in to buy the mine, it cleaned up the area. Peace, not fighting, is the best thing. Me as a businessman is about buying the beautiful gems Colombia produces and bringing it to the world. That's the passion I have. There's an excitement and a passion to this greenstone for me and my family.
Fura shares this excitement. The company says it plans to invest over $100 million more in Colombia, and it extended its mining license to 2050. While the industry is modernized, in many ways it hasn't changed. The cycle of exploitation dates back 500 years. In the 16th century, Spanish conquistadors forced indigenous people and enslaved Africans to work the mines. The Spanish coveted valuable deposits, and lavish emeralds made their way to crowns and jewelry around the world. Since then, the mines have changed hands countless times. There has been peace and times of intense fighting, but the real money has always been made by those at the top.
For the most part, those at the top, those who are the owners of the mines or the traders in the international markets or the users, don't care about those disposable populations. They can always change. They are not getting rich, but there will always be people in need of engaging in these economies to be able to live if they have no other economic options.
Es bastante difícil de conseguirlos, difícil de conseguir. Muchas personas, acá en su mayoría, no tienen ni una nevera. Para mí la mayor bendición es saber valorar la vida. Entonces acá yo aprendí a valorar lo más mínimo. La última buena fue en diciembre de 15 millones. De ahí para acá no hemos conseguido nada bueno, nada. Entonces por eso tú siempre vas a ver que en mi casa hay muchas hierbas, así como las piedras, las gemas, cada una tiene una propiedad. Entonces la esmeralda en general es una piedra de poder. Es una piedra que da temperamento, que da fuerza, que da salud. La esmeralda, por ser relacionada con el color verde, es el color de la salud, de la abundancia, de la prosperidad. O sea, yo sentirme orgullosa de decir soy de Muso, por lo que realmente somos, que somos personas guaqueras, y el nombre y el término guaquero para nosotros es un orgullo. Quiero que las personas vengan y conozcan lo que realmente somos, los trabajadores que somos.
This red dirt will be the most expensive substance known to mankind if we can bring it back from Mars. It will take 3 missions to collect and retrieve less than 1 kilogram, or a little over 2 pounds. One mission will examine and collect samples. It launched from Earth in July 2020. A second mission will gather the sample tubes and launch them into Mars orbit. A third mission will bring the samples back to Earth, and the total cost will top $9 billion. So, what makes samples of the dirt on Mars so important that NASA needs to bring them back? Will they help us finally answer the question of whether or not we are alone in the universe?
Heat shields up.
Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars.
The Perseverance rover landed on Mars on February 18th, 2021.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars. ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
Percy, as the rover is nicknamed, arrived after years of meticulous planning and a 7-month voyage through 300 million miles of space. It's a feat, considering only 40% of missions to Mars have been successful.
And because it's all autonomous, it has to work the first time, or for baseball fans out there, space is a one strike and you're out business.
Percy will spend 2 years carrying out experiments and collecting samples of Martian rock. The mission costs NASA $2.7 billion. The rover is a mobile laboratory looking for signs of life and answers to some of mankind's biggest questions.
If there was life on Mars, exactly when? Was it 1 billion years ago? Was it 4 billion years ago? Did it predate or postdate life on Earth? You might want to know that because you might want to know, for example, where life originated first, and maybe it's even possible, some people have suggested, that life could have gone from one planet to another.
The rover is painstakingly searching for and identifying rocks in Jezero Crater, the site of an ancient Martian lake bed.
Even from space, we can see that there was a lake in this crater. That lake has not been present for billions of years. And so we need to reconstruct this history and to tell a history of the place.
NASA picked this lake bed because it offers the best chance of finding evidence of life.
It will be one of the greatest discoveries in human thought. I mean, forget just science.
Perseverance is the size of a small car, built to analyze the Martian surface with cameras, radar, X-rays, and spectrometers, then collect samples with drills and even lasers. But despite the cutting-edge technology, the instruments are nothing compared to the much larger and more capable instruments and labs found on Earth.
And to see microbes and fossils in rocks, one needs to cut rocks, to look through them, make thin slices, and then use those microscopes. And none of that is possible with the current rover technology.
A lot of the work before launch focused on guaranteeing that evidence of life gathered by Percy is, in fact, Martian life.
When we're sending spacecraft to Mars, we have to make sure that it's clean enough so that we don't contaminate the environment that we are trying to explore.
At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California, engineers and scientists cleaned and tested the spacecraft to levels far beyond the most sterile operating room.
We've taken over 16,000 samples of the spacecraft. We clean, we trust, but we always verify. And we're also extra paranoid about making sure it's clean. So that's why it turned into over 16,000 samples.
When Neil Armstrong returned with moon rocks, they were stored in triple-sealed aluminum boxes designed to protect their contents for about 10 days. For this mission to Mars, engineers designed a system to protect samples for up to 10 years. With more than 3,000 moving parts, NASA calls it the most intricate and technologically advanced system sent to space. There are 43 titanium tubes that hold a core sample about the size of a piece of chalk.
The tubes are the cleanest thing that we have built at JPL. It's ridiculously pristine.
There are clean rooms at JPL, and clean rooms within clean rooms. In a hyper-clean room, scientists blasted the tubes with air, used deionized water on them, and dipped them in baths of acetone and other chemicals to be ultrasonically cleaned. Then they were cooked.
All of those tubes went through 150-degree Celsius bakeout for 29 hours.
Each tube can only be filled once, so choosing samples is the job of an entire team. And the tools they use are some of the costliest parts of Perseverance. Tanya is on the team choosing those samples.
There's an instrument that can shoot laser beams at rocks and evaporate and make plasma, and then analyze that plasma to see what elements are present in rocks, which can tell us a lot about the rock composition.
But before Percy shoots space lasers, it has to see where it's going and where to aim. That's the most advanced of 23 onboard cameras and takes nearly every picture or video you will see from Mars for the next few years. Like everything else on Percy, it's built to withstand the extremes of Mars. Sample collection will finish in 2023. Almost a decade later, around 2031, the samples will be picked up from Mars and brought back to Earth. NASA and the European Space Agency are paying for the next 2 missions. The European share is $1.8 billion, while NASA's costs will likely be much higher. First, a fetch rover will be sent to the Martian surface.
Its only job will be to go out, grab the tubes, and bring them back.
The fetch rover will then transfer the collected tubes into a rocket that lands with it. Its purpose, another first, blasting off from another planet. Rocket fuel is explosive and heavy, so NASA is developing a way to make fuel on Mars. But Mars' atmosphere lacks oxygen, a component of rocket fuel. And that's where this gold square box being lowered into Percy comes in. MOXIE, or the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, converts the Mars atmosphere into oxygen. If it works, the second lander mission will carry a bigger MOXIE to create fuel.
So imagine that you have to build a rocket that will launch from Earth, travel 7 months, land on Mars, then when the samples are put into the nose cone, point to a certain place in the sky, and with 99.999% reliability, fire and then dock with a waiting spacecraft. Big, tall order.
That waiting spacecraft will launch from Earth at about the same time the fetch rover does. Once it arrives, it'll grab the basketball-sized case containing samples.
And then that spacecraft, using electric propulsion, is going to turn around and fly back to Earth. And once it gets close, it will drop off the Earth entry vehicle. And the Earth entry vehicle is basically a heat shield with the samples inside. And that Earth entry vehicle will then land somewhere in Utah.
NASA's Independent Review Board projected the total Mars sample return mission at nearly $9 billion. But that only gets us to a landing in the desert, not studying the samples, which will likely push costs into the double-digit billions. The Apollo moon rocks came back to Earth more than 50 years ago and remain important to science today. If this little amount of Martian dirt makes it back to Earth, we will have a final cost, but in the end, the value may be priceless.
So really, we are doing this for the scientific community in the decades, perhaps even centuries to come.